Hello, good morning and welcome to Ireland AM. It is Tuesday, the 10th of October.
It is great to have you with us today. We are talking budget predictions, skin conditions and a pop star on a mission.
Yes, it is one of the most important days on the political calendar. We'll be finding out what we can expect ahead of today's budget. There's been an awful lot of leaking going on, I suppose.
I don't think there's going to be any surprises.
No, I don't think so. But we do want to get your thoughts on this. It's WhatsApp 0896 111 saying that there's going to be mortgage interest relief, that they're going to be giving more to social welfare. So what do you think? What is it that you need?
Who are the big winners? Who are the big losers on it? Let us know. Now, whether you struggle with high levels of anxiety, panic attacks, or simply feel a bit overwhelmed, we've got psychotherapist Dr. Coleman Doctor. He's going to be here to help beat the blues on World Mental Health Day. Yeah, Coleman's absolutely fantastic. And one of our guests went from performing in student bars to opening up for superstars. Singer Lea Heart, she's going to be joining us for a chat after 9 o'clock this morning. Looking forward to that. Now, Alan, what else have we got to look forward to?
Well, lots more in store throughout the morning. Now, have you ever heard of oil planing? Now, this is a skincare trend with over 14 million views on TikTok. There it is there behind me. Watch this. Jennifer Rock, aka the Skin Nerd, is going to tell you why you should avoid this at all costs if you want healthy
Is that a blade?
skin. Yeah.
Is she cutting her skin?
No, she's taking her hair off.
Oh. There it is
So
there.
she's
Look at
taking
that.
off her bum fuzz.
Right.
And then
so she's having a shave.
She's having a shave.
We do that every morning.
Yeah, we do.
every day.
But Jennifer Rock is going to be telling us why you shouldn't be doing it. Do not do it.
No shaving.
And in the kitchen, we're going to be helping you whip up your favourite Asian dish at home. A crispy chicken satay bowl is on the menu. We're looking forward to that. Now, Deric is out and about in Dublin's Fair City this morning. How are you getting on, Deric?
Well, Al, it's an on-your-bike kind of morning because it is a beautiful one out there at the moment. Ryan's settled. We will see some light mist and drizzle, a couple of showers through the northwest later. Would you believe, do you want to say this too loud, but temperatures are up to about 17 to 21 degrees on CSV Mine for this time of year, so lots to look forward to. Now, coming up later on this Tuesday, we're going to be hanging out with U2, we're going to be hanging out with the Pope, and we're going to be hanging out with Jedward. Any guesses, guys, as to where we're off to? Any guesses?
You told us a few minutes ago. No, we do know.
Dame Street.
Dame Street.
No, I didn't tell you. The Wax Museum.
Okay, no, the Wax Museum.
Right. Wow. Okay.
You're supposed to guess.
Are they going to have one of you in there?
Well, hopefully we'll see what they can rustle up, guys. But we'll give it a tour. By the way, they have a new Chamber of Horrors in there as well, so it'll be on the spooky side too.
Unbelievable. Look forward to that. I love the Wax Museum, all right. Thank you very much, Deric. Oh, not too sure who's over there, but I can't believe it's going to get to 21 degrees today.
Aye.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely lovely. Do you know what? Loads coming up on the show today. But right now, let's go over to the Virgin Media News Hub. Here is Aisling Roche.
Thanks, Myrne. Good morning. The final details of the budget were agreed last night and will be announced by Minister for Finance Michael McGrath and Minister for Public Expenditure Paschal Donohoe in the Dáil later. It's expected to include a range of measures aimed at tackling the cost of living crisis. Our political correspondent Gavin Riley has more.
There was a time when somebody would have to resign for leaking the contents of a budget before it was officially announced in Leinster House. We are far from that era now. Much of the detail already out there ahead of Michael McGrath and Paschal Donohoe making their speeches in the Dáil chamber at 1 o'clock. The average full-time worker stands to be around €780 better off next year as a result of a combination of changes to tax bands, tax rates and an increase in the main personal tax credits. Those on social welfare can also expect a €12 increase in weekly rates coming from next January, a double payment at Christmas and a double payment in January, as well as a double payment coming up to Christmas and this year's child benefit, another €140 for the parents of each child. The government says this will not be like last year, where the budget couldn't keep pace with inflation. What they're expecting is that although inflation will continue to rise, that what they're able to do in this budget, combined with wage increases coming down the line, will mean everybody is better off. That will also mean increased funding for education, increased funding for the Gardaí, free school books for those up to junior cycle, free hot meals for everybody attending primary school, higher maintenance grants at third level, and the reintroduction of maintenance grants for those undertaking postgraduate study. Whether it's enough to make sure that everyone is able to keep their ends meet remains to be seen. There will also be an announcement of further energy credits, expected to be 3 further credits, each of them €150 applied this side and beyond Christmas.
Gavin Riley reporting there. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned his country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, adding that the Israel Defense Forces' retaliation for the worst attack in decades has only just begun. Around 900 people have died since Saturday's surprise attack, including 260 people killed by Hamas gunmen at a music festival. Dozens of people have also been kidnapped by Hamas. EU foreign ministers are meeting today to discuss the escalating conflict, while the US has also pledged support for Israel.
Well, we're still learning the extent of this horror, trying to understand how many Americans are amongst those being held hostage. I mean, this is absolutely unconscionable, the idea that Hamas is using these hostages, threatening to execute them should Israel go about the work of trying to hold those responsible for these killings accountable. But we have the best in the business in the United States at locating hostages and trying to extricate them.
2 men were arrested by Gardaí last night after crowds protested outside the Israeli embassy in Dublin. The protesters were carrying placards and Palestinian flags. One person threw red paint at the door. The crowd was dispersed at around 11 o'clock. A motorcyclist in his 50s has died following a crash in County Westmeath. The crash happened on the N55 at Lissoy shortly before 6 o'clock yesterday evening. A technical examination of the scene will be conducted this morning, when a post-mortem examination on the man's body is expected to take place at Mullingar Regional Hospital. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to come forward. A man in his 20s is due in court this morning following a €720,000 drug seizure at Dublin Airport yesterday. 36 kilograms of cannabis was discovered when revenue officers stopped and searched the baggage of a passenger who had arrived from New York. The man was arrested and has since been charged. He is due to appear before the criminal courts of justice at 10:30 this morning.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Thank you, Chair, and a very good morning. We're broadcasting here ahead of our trip to Roscommon later on in the week. Live here from James Street in Dublin City Centre this morning. Coming up later on this Tuesday, we're paying a visit to the Wax Museum, including their Chamber of Horrors. So lots to come. That all should be fun in and around 8:45 this morning. Now we're getting past 7 o'clock here together. Let's take a look weather-wise at how we're shaping up with Alvaro Valero with us on cameras. And you'll be glad to hear it is a mainly dry and settled start out there this morning. Now we are seeing showers through parts of Connemara at the moment, Central Clare just north of Ennis, and up in Cookstown in County Tyrone, but that's pretty decent now, and in those moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Now, right across today, in fact, we will see a system develop up around the northwest, and as we feed our way through the 10th of the month, in fact, we will see those showers sink in a southeasterly direction, holding dries to Bryce further east-southeast and across southern sections. And in fact, that's where we're going to see the mildest of those temperatures out there today. Unseasonably mild, in fact, for this time of year, 17 to 19 on average, where we could top around 20, even 21 degrees in some spots. So into tonight, that system of showers will continue to feed in a southeasterly direction. It will be a lot drier and a lot clearer than in behind it through parts of the north. Winds too, again on the pacey side, will be strong and gusty for a time from the southwest, with overnight lows there no lower than 7 to 10 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in a dry and settled Dublin city centre at the moment. We're back again live at 7:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with The Mirror. Its headline, Child Vape Epidemic. The paper reports how children can buy vapes laced with nicotine and antifreeze with ease in Ireland because there is no law on selling them to under 18s. We're one of the last countries in the world to ban their sale to children.
Taylor charged at gunman is the top front page of the Herald. Witnesses have told the Central Criminal Court of the moment boxing coach Pete Taylor was shot after he made a charge at a gunman who opened fire on a gym session at Bray Boxing Club.
Hamas will kill a hostage for each Israeli attack. That's the Daily Mail this morning. Hamas leaders threatened last night to execute civilian hostages if Israel continues its retaliatory airstrikes against Gaza. Palestinian authorities claim a refugee camp, a hospital and several mosques have been hit.
The Star leads with No War. During their Las Vegas show on Sunday, U2 frontman Bono paid an emotional tribute to the hundreds of young victims murdered by Hamas at the Supernova Musical Festival in Israel.
The Sun leads with I Just Want Her Back. The mother of Irish woman Kim Damty, who has been missing after an unprecedented attack against Israel, has spoken of her heartbreak as she waits for news about her daughter.
Now on to the Irish Times. It goes with mortgage tax relief of €1,250 set for budget. Mortgage payers whose repayments have soared with European Central Bank rates rise will receive the tax relief as part of today's budget.
Workers €800 better off after USC cut tax tweaks in budgets. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Finance Minister Michael McGrath will unveil a more than €1 billion tax package, which will see the entry point for the 40% tops rate of income tax increased by €2,000 to €42,000.
And finally, the Examiner leads with €10,000 lump sum for SMEs in Budget 2024. Small and medium-sized businesses will receive a lump sum payment of up to €10,000 as part of today's budget, which aims to give something to everyone. There'll also be a 25% reduction in childcare costs for parents.
So after the break, we're going to take a deep dive into today's budget because we kind of know everything that has sort of been there. Come on, he loves it. He loves it, really.
Great.
You're mad for it.
My World Cup final day today.
That's it. Mortgage interest relief. Who cares about Ireland getting to final? We'd love to get your thoughts. It's WhatsApp 0896 111 111, €12 increase in welfare payments, $450 in energy credits and mortgage interest relief. Some of the things that we think we know.
Plus, lots more. We've got an expert panel who are going to join us to take us through it all. That's coming up next.
Welcome back now after months of build-up. Not World Cup? No, we're not talking about the World Cup. And a pile of leaks and speculation. Budget Day 2024 is finally due today with squeezed middle families set to be the biggest winners.
So join us to discuss is Lorcan 9 with the Communications Clinic, Suzanne Rogers of Social Justice Ireland and Sarah McGuinness from the Business Post. Good morning to you all. Thank you very much for being here nice and early on this momentous day. Budget Day, give us an overview, Lorcan. Who are the big winners and say losers, you reckon?
Based on the leaks, and sure, who knows if the leaks are accurate, of course. The biggest winners are basically middle-income earners who have kids. It would be the biggest earners from this. So if you're looking at the change between the change in the USE and the change in the tax bands, which we can go into, if you're earning 50,000, you're looking about €800 a year more. If you're earning 75,000, about €900 back in your pocket. So if you're middle income couple, you're looking at almost $2,000 there. There's then going to be reductions in childcare costs, and that's a significant saving. If those reduce down by 25%, you're looking at, again, a couple of grand, really, such as the height of the childcare costs coming in there. And then if you add in, let's say, they happen to be on a variable mortgage that they own their home, and there's going to be interest relief on that of $1,200. So quite rapidly, if you're that kind of individual or that kind of couple, you're getting up towards $4,000 or $5,000 back in your pocket from this budget. So they would be the big winners. And that's a relatively niche area, but they'd be the big winners from this.
And is that keeping pace with inflation? All of that added seems to be keeping pace with inflation.
Yeah, and that's what the government would be hoping will come from this budget. That last time it was about trying to keep up with inflation, and look, you'll still be hit by the cost of living, but it won't be as bad. This time, they're hoping that people will actually feel it, that even with inflation, even with cost pressures, even with energy, pressures over the last number of years, that these people that they're targeting will still feel this back in their pocket. And if you're in that kind of sweet spot of what all of the different areas they're targeting, you will feel it back. The losers then, on the other hand, it's probably more comparative losers in this budget. And what I mean by that is, I know in life we're not supposed to look to our left and see what did they get. We're only supposed to look to ourselves. But that's not human nature. No. We really care about that comparative winners and losers. And so there's going to be people who are looking at themselves and saying, I didn't get as much as my neighbour. So the clearest example would be the mortgage interest relief. You might be getting €1,200 back a year if you're on a variable rate. If you were thinking about it and switched to a fixed rate, you're not getting that money, because you're on a fixed rate.
We'll get to that one then in a minute. Sarah, in terms of families as well, like you're thinking relief for parents, but it's about the free book scheme with the junior cert and up to third year is it as well. You have the college fees reduced to 1,500 a year and €300 increase in student grants as well.
Now, those are all really effective measures that no doubt will really help. Like, I did not realise school books cost so much, but they break the bank. So, if this measure does come to fruition, it will be about 770,000 children who will be availing across primary and secondary level to junior cert, availing of free books, which is amazing. And they're also looking at pushing out the hot meal scheme that's hoped to be rolled out to all pupils by about 2030, but they're looking to kind of push that further and kind of accelerate that rollout. So that's kind of two big wins for Norma Foley. Then obviously Simon Harris has been pushing for a reduction to college fees. I believe it was €1,500 last year, so a little bit less. He's pushing for a €1,000 reduction to fees, but that's still kind of 1/3 off, which is a big saving.
Yeah, huge. Like huge. It is, because when it comes to children, huge, unbelievably huge cost for all these things. And Suzanne, I suppose we just saw a couple of weeks ago, some childcare providers up to 60 went on a form of a strike in relation to how their money was being paid by the government and what was going on in that situation. We're saying 25% cut in childcare costs. If that comes true, that's a big deal.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I mean, that was the commitment, was a 50% over 2 budget, and we got last year. So again, it remains to see what we'll get for this year. But I mean, anybody who's paying childcare costs, it's usually a second mortgage. And anybody, and again, it's primarily women. I've yet to meet a man who's kind of figuring out, if I have a baby, can I still have a career? So, you know, because it's primarily women who are thinking about childcare. And when you get into maybe having 2 or 3 children, really having to weigh up, do I remain in the workplace or do I say to myself, it's going to be cheaper and easier just to stay at home with my children? So childcare is key. Childcare is key at keeping women in the workplace. It's really, really key as well in terms of we have a new child poverty and wellbeing office in the Department of the Taoiseach. If, as the Taoiseach says, we want to make Ireland the best place in Europe to be a child, childcare is going to be really, really, really important, and making sure, and the differences are made when we're tiny. That's where the difference
is this an extra 25%? So this will take it to the 50% that Roderick O'Gorman had kind of promised, but it looks like he's had to fight pretty hard to get this in.
Yeah. I mean, but this is going to be like, this feeds into so many other government priorities. So I just think childcare really is going to have to, they're going to have to really look at it. But
a lot of those childcare facilities, though, said that they were getting 25%, but we weren't really seeing it. That's the other thing.
The thing is that when you actually look at what childcare providers are earning compared to the costs of it, so there is...
It's like a freeze from 2017 where energy costs have gone up so much, but then the payments haven't.
This is it. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So, I mean, really what you'd be looking for, I suppose, ideally is a state system. You know, that because again, this is another thing that's gone out to the private market, and you know, not to fault the care the care our children get in these facilities is top notch. That's not what we're talking about, but it's a huge cost.
Fantastic.
Okay, state system, so kind of looking towards what's going on in Scandinavia with things like that. Okay, let's talk about the cost of living package. More than €2.3 billion is said to be announced. Obviously, they've been doing their sums over the past few weeks and going, oh, we're not getting as much corporation tax as we thought that we were going to get. So last year, a total of €600 per household, Lorcan. It was 3 instalments, €200 each, in an energy tax credit. What are we looking at this year? Because obviously energy is going to be a major factor of cost for households this year.
So continuing with the one-off payment, I think it's closer to 400 this year.
Yeah, 450.
450. So 450 per household. So people will still be getting an energy tax credit. It's not going to be the same as what it was. And I suppose, look, that's the benefit from a government perspective, and that's why they're gone off for the one-off payments, and they're moving towards that model much more than they used to, because obviously each year you can still feel like you're given something rather than taking it away. And so look, that's I mean, is that good? Is that bad? Let's see how it plays out over the next number of years. But that they're able to react to the market. So energy prices are still going to be a big cost, but they're not as significant, and therefore the one-off payment comes back down. Now the issue, I suppose,
that's something people did point to last year, like that tax credit. And it is a pre-election budget. Yeah. And they did point to that made a difference.
Yeah. And look, when you're looking at a pre-election budget, and the budgets tend to be defined in election terms, governments are looking to do 3 things consistently with a budget. The first one is puncture any criticism that's coming your way, so that when you get criticised, you can say, yeah, you're criticising me on that, but we did do this for you, so that there's something to be pushed back on in every area, so that you're kind of puncturing the opposition criticism, puncturing the media criticism, puncturing the criticism from interest groups. So that's one thing that you're always trying to do. The second thing you're trying to do is get big one-off wins. So childcare. That's tangible, it's clear, we'll talk about it, it's great, it cuts through, and it's a big one-off win. And then the slightly harder to see benefit is they're looking at a long-term cumulative benefit that people might not give them credit for, but when it comes to an election, you're saying, do you know what, I'm actually doing okay.
Okay.
So you're looking at it from those three spheres. The first one, the punctual criticism, can lead to budgets feeling a little bit piecemeal. There's a bit here, there's a bit there, but that's what it's designed to do.
Well, and I think for a lot of people, they're going to be happy with this. One group who might not be too happy is Social Justice Ireland around the social welfare. Joe, I think we're going to take a break now, and we'll come back to that probably after the news, because our panel, they are going to stay with us. Thank you very much for this budget special. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, we don't need to put anything on screen. He's going to do the song all day. We'd love to hear from you. We're trying to go through as much as we can on what is expected to happen in your life. 0896 111 111. We'll be back with you very shortly on Ireland Day for more analysis. Pre-analysis. Yeah, pre-analysis. Talk to you in a second.
Welcome back. The headlines. The final details of the budget were agreed last night and will be announced by the Minister for Finance and Minister for Public Expenditure in the Dáil later. It's expected to include a range of measures aimed at tackling the cost of living crisis. Welfare increases and tax cuts are among the measures which the Cabinet is expected to sign off on. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned his country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, adding that the Israel Defense Forces' retaliation for the worst attack in decades has only just begun. Around 1,000 people have died since Saturday's surprise attack. Dozens of people have also been kidnapped by Hamas. EU foreign ministers are meeting today to discuss the escalating conflict. Meanwhile, 2 men were arrested by Gardaí last night after crowds protested outside the Israeli embassy in Dublin. The protesters were carrying placards and Palestinian flags. One person threw red paint at the door. The crowd was dispersed at around 11 o'clock.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Sure, I cannot get over how mild it is out there this morning, and pushing past 7:30 now, with the exception of part of Galway into Eastern Clare and Tyrone. It's a dry and settled start. You'll be glad to hear out there this morning those moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Now, into this afternoon, in fact, those winds will pick up pace, will be gusty for a time. Elsewhere, we will see rain arrive in across the northwest later on today, and that will feed southeastwards. The driest, the brightest, really, holding through parts of Munster in across the southeast valleys, up to around 17 to 21. Into tonight, then, temps are talking around 5 to 14, mildest across southern regions, as that rain continues to track southwards, southeastwards across the country. And another pretty decent start then expected into your Wednesday morning. So that's how it's shaping up for now. We're back again live at 8.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
And welcome back. Our panel of experts have stayed with us to further discuss the impact of Budget 2024, which is coming later on today.
Lorcan Nine from the Communications Clinic, Suzanne Rogers of Social Justice Ireland, and Sarah McGuinness from the Business Post. Thank you for staying with us. So, Lorcan, you said to break down a budget, you need 3 things: avoid criticism, small wins, and I've forgotten the third one.
And long-term impact over a number of years, so that you might not give the government credit, but that you'll eventually feel it in your pocket over a while and feel, I'm doing all right.
Okay. So in terms of the small wins then, Suzanne, like when we're talking about social welfare, that is going to be increased, but not to the sort of level that a lot were asking for. Yourself, you're hoping, so it looks like it's going to get to be about €12 a week. You're hoping to get it to about 25. I know I was listening to somebody from Barnardo's last night was saying the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to any of my colleagues right the way across the sector, a minimum of 25 was what was needed in order just to be able to buy the same basket of goods.
Right.
So, because you're your euro is worth less than it was a couple of years ago. So a 12 euro increase is actually a decrease. It's actually taking money out of people's pockets. And I'm so conscious there's such a difference between cutting back and cutting out. So, you know, the heat not going on for 1 or 2 hours a day is fine. Excuse me. Cutting back on the heat for 2 or 3 days a week is a whole different conversation. So, like, people are really, really, really struggling on 220. That has to put the roof over your head. So that has to pay your rent, put your heat on, your light on, your food, your phone top up, your transport costs, your bin tags, your TV licence, your clothes, your haircuts, your toiletries. Like, there's an awful lot of heavy lifting that 220
has been huge.
Huge. And I think as well, what we've seen again is if this comes out, but the likes of carers and disability, they're getting those one-off payments. Disability is an ongoing condition. Like a one-off payment, OK, it's acknowledging that there are extra costs linked with disability, but that's not what's needed. It's that long-term income adequacy is really the key issue.
They're talking here about social welfare rates increased by 12 euro, a double payment across almost all social welfare schemes to be issued as well. And they're also talking about a double payment for fuel allowance. There will be energy credits as well that we've talked about, up to 450 euro. Again, we know this is pre-analysis. 0896 111 for what you think about this in relation to social welfare, because that's one end, Sarah. You've got to think at the other end when it comes to pensions, that pensioners are really getting hit as well when it comes to the state pension and what that is getting them. And we do hear every single winter, certainly at the moment, what's happening with energy, of older people getting into their bed at 12 o'clock because they can't stay outside because they can't put the heating on.
Yeah, no, it's very tragic, and like we're kind of coming into it now. So that kind of 12 euro increase, you kind of have to think like, how much is that going to break the mold really? And while the auto enrollments kind of is being kicked further down, so it is a bit dire now. Like, there are kind of other elements where they will make back a bit of money as well. Like, if you look at tax, for example, these will kind of be two of the big ticket items for households, you know. So basically there's 2 changes to the USC and income tax, which will put people will save money, I suppose. You're looking at about £1,000 a year between the two of them. So the income tax threshold is being raised from about like your higher threshold where you're being taxed about 40%, that's going from 40k to 42k. Yep. So that will be a saving. They're looking at that's about €400 saving. Okay. And then same with the USC. They're basically kind of moving the guidelines so when that can be charged. Yep. So you won't be charged on USC before 13 grand. The 2% is being raised 25 grand. And then also they're looking at cutting the 4.5% USC to 4% as well. Okay. So like those little things will kind of add up. But as Suzanne kind of said, like it's not anything long term that like you can kind of tangibly know in like 2 or 3 years I'm going to be okay.
It's the first Fianna Fáil finance minister to do a budget, I think something like 13 years. I mean, they were those who brought in this USC. So they are decreasing it, I think, to 4%. It looks like it's here to stay, really, Lork, does it?
The USC? Yeah, I mean, they're always talking about reducing it down and getting rid of it. So there's going to be changes over time. It's going to be reduced down slowly. But the USC, the tax has been brought in. Yeah. People are now used to it. It widens out the tax base significantly.
Temporary in the first place.
Lots of things in life are meant to be temporary, Tommy. Once they're there. And look, it does widen out the tax base. And like the government are going to, you know, they want a wider tax base given what happened in the past. So, you know, there's a logic for them keeping it in. You reduce it down and it takes the tax burden off people. But absolutely, look, it's the first Fianna Fáil finance minister to bring it through. And I think if you look back on the last budget that was brought in by a Fianna Fáil finance minister, we wouldn't be talking about, they didn't give enough here, they didn't give enough here. We'd be talking about, you know, social welfare rates for young people being absolutely slashed, child benefit being reduced down. You know, the big wins were things that weren't touched at all after a lot of fighting and a lot of protests. So, like, there's a big change from the old budgets to now, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be demanding more. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be ambitious and optimistic.
The one area, and we know that there's going to be changes to the minimum wage, it's going to be increased, but one thing that everyone seems to be talking about is the mortgage interest release of up to €1,250. Almost every think tank has said to the government in Ireland, please do not do anything with mortgages, we need to deflate the economy. And they've said, we know we're going to
look after part of it, or some of them.
This is for people who have moved from variable rates, right, that aren't on fixed rates.
I think it's a good example, or a symbolic maybe example of where priorities of government and political parties, because Sinn Féin wanted this as well. They've been calling for mortgage interest relief, lie, which is they do tend to lie with the homeowners, because they stay in the area, they vote, and so a lot of our system does tend to be geared towards people who already have a home, while the argument could perhaps be made that those who have a home are probably comparatively doing all right anyway. So mortgage interest relief is in that space. What they've done here, because it's been called for and because there's been pressure, is because the ECB rates have gone up, those who are on variable rates or on tracker mortgages, their mortgage repayments have unexpectedly increased significantly, and there was huge pressure on to do something for those people. Those who are on fixed rates, who decide I'm going to lock in on a fixed rate, the argument would be, well, you're still paying what you were paying, or look, even if your fixed rate has run out and you're going to roll over to another fixed rate, it's increased. But you could see that coming, and so you've been hit.
When those people were on tracker mortgages and they were at rock bottom rates, we didn't hear anything from them then. Now, obviously, it's flipped, and people who maybe foresaw this and moved to a fixed rate, then they're the ones who are going to be missing out.
This is why I think this is probably a political mistake. It's probably the only political mistake within the budget because of that comparative piece. Because people who are on fixed mortgages are going to get very, very frustrated because comparatively they're not as well off. And then also because everybody tells you don't do mortgage interest relief if you want a balanced economy.
But the housing is what everyone in this country is focused on when it comes to political parties, with Sinn Féin going, we are going, pre-election budget, you got to remember, and they're saying, we are going to fix the housing market. So then you're hoping for 20% of housing stock, Social Justice Ireland, to be social housing by 2030.
It's what's needed. So at the moment in Ireland, about 9% of our housing stock is social housing, and we've seen where that has led us. So we have this huge over-reliance on the private market to provide our social housing. That isn't working. That experiment has absolutely failed. The statistics show that the majority of people entering into homeless services come from the private rented market. Family homelessness is at record levels. Every single month is a new record. So I just think when we get to a stage where we've only got 700 children who are homeless, are we going to think, oh, that's fine? So the gap between what's accepted and what's acceptable, they should be the same thing, and yet we've got this really wide moving. Now, Housing for All commits to 90,000 units. We're not really sure how 42,500 of those are going to be funded. At the moment, if you add up who's on the housing list, who's in HAP, who's in RAS, who's on rent supplement, we're looking at maybe 150,000 units there. We estimate need being nearly maybe 232,000, and that's not taking into account, again, the huge influx in population growth we saw last year.
And that's a huge matter that's going to be happening all the time. I think we're going to be talking about housing for a long time. Sarah, do you think that Michael McGrath is going to be having a pint tonight? Is he going to be a happy fella?
Yeah, well, I think he will be. I think out of relief, if nothing else.
Okay,
but like as Lorcan,
he's got all these deep pockets.
He's got all these deep pockets, exactly. But as kind of Lorcan was saying, you know, this is like Fianna Fáil have been waiting in the wings for this. It's the first Fianna Fáil budget in about 12 years, and like they wanted to get it in there before this next general election comes out.
Pascal will be going, no, why did you do this? Why did you do this?
We haven't got to renters or tax relief for landlords, but we'd love to get your opinion on it. 0896 111 111. What have you made of it? What stood out for you? And, you know, has it been a good budget for you? Lorcan Nine from the Communications Clinic, Suzanne Rogers from the Research Policy Analyst with Social Justice Ireland, and Sarah McGuinness, Assistant News Editor of the Business Post. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Again tomorrow, to see what happens.
We'll stick around.
We'll talk to you very shortly. We'll be back with you on Ireland AM in just a minute.
Thanks for staying with us now. With a rising death toll and truly horrific footage that we saw yesterday, the conflict in Israel has stunned the world.
Joining us to try to the complexities of the region and give the latest in updates is a Professor of Politics from the DCU School of Law, Donncha O'Bachón, live from Brussels. Donncha, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know this is incredibly difficult in a short period of time, but can you tell us the complicated history, just explain a little bit, between Israel and Palestine and the people of Gaza?
Sure. I mean, context is important here because we tend to focus on the last major atrocity. And for many of your viewers, the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians seems to go in cycles. Israel is 75 years old this year. And it was established largely as a result of the Holocaust, the attempt to wipe out the Jewish population of Europe. They felt they needed a state of their own to protect themselves. But of course, this land had to be found somewhere. And it was essentially in Palestine. That meant the displacement of large amounts of Palestinians. They resisted the establishment of Israel. And in 1967, there was a major conflict Six-Day War, and since then there's been a long-term occupation of Palestinian lands by the Israelis. They argue that it's for their own security. Palestinians argue that this is essentially an occupation. It's an apartheid state, and this recent flare-up is the latest manifestation of this feud, this conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians, which of course always has wider implications for the region because it has the potential to bring in other major actors. But the cycle of retaliation in recent years has only made both sides more radical. There's no really middle ground emerging here. Most societies, most states, including Ireland, believe that the only long-term sustainable solution is one that's involving two states, a state of Palestine and a state of Israel, but it seems we're no closer to that potential outcome.
And Donic, do we know why now Hamas has decided this massive attack over the weekend and surprising everybody, because people would think that Israel have great intelligence, the US, they took everyone by surprise.
Well, yes, this was a major failure of Israeli intelligence, which has a well-earned reputation. It has huge implications, not only militarily, but for the political life of Benjamin Netanyahu, who has made his own claim to being a strong man. The timing of the war was a surprise, but not the fact that it took place based on what I've told you about the context. I mean, it was always a simmering conflict, not a frozen one. And it takes place. I mean, the arena in which it takes place, Gaza, is one that we have seen conflicts emerging before. Most, I guess, recently in 2014, where 2,200 Palestinians were killed, only about 60 Israelis then. So this is the question that Hamas have to ask themselves: is what they intended to gain from starting the conflict again now, or on a large scale? Because always what happens in the past is that Palestinians suffer disproportionately. In 2014, the ratio was 250 to 1.
Wow.
It's obviously there's huge implications for all of this. Hamas came to power in 2006. They haven't had any elections in Gaza since then, and Mahmoud Abbas, who's in the West Bank, he won't go to Gaza for fear of being assassinated by Hamas. But of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli PM, he's also a divisive figure within Israel with everything he's doing. When it comes to the EU, you're in Brussels right now, Donncha. There was a little bit of confusion about what the stance was in relation to aid with Gaza yesterday. What is going on with the EU and our stance towards this war?
Yeah, a very, very confusing couple of hours where the EU commissioner responsible for the neighbourhood and enlargement said that the EU was going to cut off all aid to the Palestinians. And this immediately aroused a backlash, not least from the Irish government, because it was seen as another example of collective punishment, because this is aid not to Hamas, it's aid to the Palestinian people for things like education, health. 80% of the population of Gaza are in need of humanitarian assistance. So within a couple of hours, it was clarified that, in fact, aid was not being discontinued. So it seems that this is symptomatic of deep divisions within the European Union about how to respond to what we're seeing in Palestine and Israel.
And Donncha, I mean, when we talk about Gaza, 2 million people live in that small area. It's now been cut off with power, water supply, food. And with the bombardment that Israel is impounding on it at the moment, we can only imagine the loss of life in this war is going to be absolutely astronomical.
On both sides.
On both sides.
And
I'm started, yeah. And can we talk about that? That the Hamas taking those Israeli hostages and these people missing. So every time Israel bombs, a hostage will be killed, and this is the tit for tat that's going on.
Well, we've definitely entered a new phase of the war. I mean, Hamas dictated the timing in terms of the beginning, but I think the stage where we're going to see large-scale deaths among Israeli civilians is now over, and now the focus is going to be on Gaza, and the fact that Israel has mobilized 300,000 reservists means that they are thinking of a ground offensive in Gaza, and that will be extremely bloody. I mean, Gaza is 2.5 million people packed into an area that's less than half the size of County Louth. And they have nowhere to go. They're under full blockade. So the Israeli Ministry of Defense said that they're imposing a full blockade of energy, of fuel, of water. So everything that you need, essentially. There's been no stockpiling. It's already been under-resourced, and they have nowhere to escape to. The UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied territories described Gaza as an open-air prison. They have nowhere to go to, and they are facing one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world. So it's going to be a very difficult couple of weeks for the citizens of Gaza.
It certainly is, with no end in sight in just a few days in. Professor of Politics at DCU School of Law and Government, who's live in Brussels right now. Professor Donncha Bachon, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, Donncha. We'll be back with you shortly on Ireland AM.
My coffee. Hello, you're very welcome back to the show. We've lots more still to come here on Ireland AM until 10 o'clock.
We do indeed. Are you okay there? Do you want to get a towel? John, do you want to wipe it on that? Are you okay? Now, one of our guests started her own career by sharing her music on TikTok. Now she's storming the charts with her heartfelt hits. Singer Lea Heart will be joining us after 9.
Plus, to celebrate World Mental Health Day, psychotherapist Coleman Noctor is going to be here to help us mind our minds, and he's going to answer our viewers' questions as well. So if you have a question for Coleman, send them in to 0896 111 111.
Is my throat catching? Is that what's happening? We're all just going,
We're all struggling.
Yeah, and if you're easily skinfluenced by what you see online, Jennifer Rock, aka the Skin Nerd, will be here to tell us what trends are worth hopping on and what are worth avoiding in just a little while.
Now, the perfect man for that, Alan. He's getting all the updates already. And now he's with another Jennifer.
Yes, we certainly are. Jen is in the kitchen this morning with a perfect dish for us. What are you making this morning, Jen?
I'm doing a crispy chicken satay bowl.
Satay bowl?
Satay bowl, so nice, fresh, kind of healthy
you're
recipe.
making nice coleslaw with it? Is
nice
that the
coleslaw
idea?
and crispy chicken.
Okay, lovely. Looking forward to that. That's coming up a little later on. Now, Deric's in the Wax Museum in Dublin this morning. How are you getting on, Deric? Who's that beside you?
I am, Al. We have landed here. We're surrounded by a whole heap of celebs in the Wax Museum here this morning. Al, who have we got?
Well, you're currently sitting right beside Father Dougal, looking suitably bemused. Looking more certain of himself, of course, Eamon Dunphy. Father Ted not quite sure what to think, and of course keeping an eye on proceedings, Mr. Gay Byrne.
Gay Byrne, I believe we're heading down to the Chamber of Horrors a little bit later on as well.
I thought you said you were too scared.
Oh yeah, I'm a proper scaredy cat. Come here, will you have a cup of tea?
I'll have a small
go
one.
On, go on, go on, and go
Just
on.
in my hand.
Back to you in studio. There we go.
Just can't deal with any more Deric's chat.
We'll be talking to Deric in just a little while, but right now let's go over to the Virgin Media News Hub. Here is Aisling Roche.
Thanks, Myrne. Good morning. The final details of the budget were agreed last night and will be announced by Minister for Finance Michael McGrath and Minister for Public Expenditure Paschal Donoghue in the Dáil later. It's expected to include a range of measures aimed at tackling the cost of living crisis. Our political correspondent Gavin Riley has more.
There was a time when somebody would have to resign for leaking the contents of a budget before it was officially announced in Leinster House. We are far from that era now. Much of the detail already out there ahead of Michael McGrath and Paschal Donoghue making their speeches in the Dáil chamber at 1 o'clock. The average full-time worker stands to be around €780 better off next year as a result of a combination of changes to tax bands, tax rates and an increase in the main personal tax credits. Those on social welfare can also expect a €12 increase in weekly rates coming from next January, a double payment at Christmas and a double payment in January, as well as a double payment coming up to Christmas and this year's child benefit, another €140 for the parents of each child. The government says this will not be like last year, where the budget couldn't keep pace with inflation. What they're expecting is that although inflation will continue to rise, that what they're able to do in this budget, combined with wage increases coming down the line, will mean everybody is better off. That will also mean increased funding for education, increased funding for the Gardaí, free school books for those up to junior cycle, free hot meals for everybody attending primary school, higher maintenance grants at third level, and the reintroduction of maintenance grants for those undertaking postgraduate study. Whether it's enough to make sure that everyone is able to keep their ends meet remains to be seen. There will also be an announcement of further energy credits, expected to be 3 further credits, each of them €150 applied this side and beyond Christmas.
Gavin Riley reporting there. Israel has sealed the border with Gaza, which Hamas militants broke through on Saturday to launch a deadly wave of attacks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned the country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, adding that the Israeli Defense Forces retaliation has only just begun. Around 1,000 people have died since Saturday's surprise attack, including 260 people killed by Hamas gunmen at a music festival. Dozens of people have also been kidnapped. EU foreign ministers are meeting today to discuss the escalating conflict, while the US has begun delivering critically needed ammunition and military equipment to Israel.
We're obviously at the early stage of the process of evaluating, our ability to support what the IDF needs. And just as we have with Ukraine, we're going to weigh, obviously, the impacts of request to our readiness. But I would argue that just as we've leaned forward with Ukraine, I think, the intent is to lean forward in support of Israel. And, one thing that is really important in terms of the munitions in particular and our ability to support both potentially the Israelis and the Ukrainians simultaneously.
Meanwhile, 2 men were arrested by Gardaí last night after crowds protested outside the Israeli embassy in Dublin. The protesters were carrying placards and Palestinian flags. Several hundred people attended the demonstration at the embassy. One person threw red paint at the door. The crowd dispersed at around 11 p.m. A motorcyclist in his 50s has died following a crash in County Westmeath. The crash happened on the N55 at Lissoy shortly before 6 o'clock yesterday evening. A technical examination of the scene will be conducted this morning, while a post-mortem on the man's body is expected to take place at Mullingar Regional Hospital. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to come forward. A man in his 20s is due in court this morning following a €720,000 drug seizure at Dublin Airport yesterday. 36 kilograms of cannabis was discovered when revenue officers stopped and searched the baggage of a passenger who arrived from New York. The man was arrested and has since been charged. He is due to appear before the criminal courts of justice at 10:30 this morning. And finally, in the US, a horticulture teacher has set a new world record for the world's heaviest pumpkin after raising a giant gourd weighing around 2,700 pounds. Travis Gander drove the pumpkin 33 hours to make the contest and see his hard work pay off at the 58th World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off in Half Moon Bay. Travis, who also won the contest last year, received $30,000 in prize money.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates in Virgin Media One.
Yes, Ger, we're in great company here in the Wax Museum this morning. Gay Byrne, Dermot Morgan and Eamon Duffy. Coming up later this hour, we're taking you downstairs to the Chamber of Horrors in the run-up to Halloween, of course, so that's all to come at 8:45. Now, getting past 8 o'clock here together, it's a pretty decent start out there this morning. We're still seeing a couple of hit and miss showers trail around parts of South Galway, in around Clare, up around Tyrone, but elsewhere it is holding dry and settled with some nice bright spells beginning to pull through now as we edge our way into your breakfast time with those moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Across the day, those winds will pick up pace for a time. They will be strong and gusty across southern and coastal regions. Elsewhere, we will see a system of showers pull in across the northwest, and that'll sink southeastwards as the day goes on. The best of brightness, the best of dryness holding for the south-southeast. We go top values very, very mild for this time of year, holding at 17 to 21. And into tonight, it will be a damp and showery one as the system pushes out through the southeast. In behind it, a lot drier to take us through into tomorrow morning with overnight lows there no lower than 7 to 11 degrees. So that's how we're shaping up for now. We're back again live at 8:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates in Virgin Media One.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with The Mirror. Its headline, Child Vape Epidemic. The paper reports how children can buy vapes laced with nicotine and antifreeze with ease in this country because there is no law on selling them to under 18s. We're one of the last countries in the world to ban their sale to children.
Taylor charged at gunman is the front page of the Herald. Witnesses have told the Central Criminal Court of the moment boxing coach Pete Taylor was shot after he made a charge at a gunman who opened fire on a gym session at Bray Boxing Club.
Hamas will kill a hostage for each Israeli attack. That's the top story on the Daily Mail. Hamas leaders threatened last night to execute civilian hostages if Israel continues its retaliatory airstrikes against Gaza. Palestinian authorities claim a refugee camp, a hospital and several mosques have been hit.
The Star leads with no war. During their Las Vegas show on Sunday, U2 frontman Bono paid an emotional tribute to the hundreds of young victims murdered by Hamas at the Supernova Musical Festival in Israel.
The Sun leads with I Just Want Her Back. The mother of Irish woman Kim Damty, who has been missing after an unprecedented attack against Israel, has spoken of her heartbreak as she waits for news about her daughter.
The Irish Times goes with mortgage tax relief of €1,250 set for budget. Mortgage payers whose repayments have soared with European Central Bank rates rise will receive the tax relief as part of today's budget.
Workers €800 better off after USC cut tax tweaks in budget. Alan, stop it. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Finance Minister Michael McGrath will unveil a more than €1 billion tax package, which will see the entry point for the 40% top rate of income tax increase by €2,000, I'm so sorry, to €42,000.
And finally, the Examiner leads with €10,000 lump sum for SMEs in Budget 2024. Small and medium-sized businesses will receive a lump sum payment of up to €10,000 as part of today's budget, which aims to give something to everyone. There will also be a 25% reduction in childcare costs for parents. The old paper heads got me there this morning. Alan, making us laugh. He's sitting, giggling away on the side there.
I'm sitting here minding my own business.
You were
Listen, so many people getting in touch with us about the budget. We had the budget predictions earlier on and what's going to come up a little later on. And what we didn't mention earlier on, which we don't seem to be seeing anywhere, is anything help for single people. And Michael has said this, single people forgotten in this budget once again. It suits families. What about us single income renters, mortgage holders, or variable mortgage holders, and just single people trying to make a living and work? There doesn't seem to be anything. We're not hearing anything.
Yeah, it's very much for middle-income families, isn't a lot of it? And school books.
And like you have those people who are trying to rent, trying to get out to work. The people that like our society relies on, these single people just going out to work every day. And it's forgotten about once again because there was a big complaint in the last budget that they literally got nothing. Nothing.
If you're a single person these days, you're kind of going, sure, I'm never going to own a house. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it is.
There was another group of people who feel that they're not getting much either are carers. Alex has said giving carers a once-off payment but disqualifying us from applying for fuel allowance again. We have children and adults that require extra care and are one of the only groups that for no reason whatsoever cannot receive extra help to keep our homes warm.
There is likely to be, by the way, a one-off €400 payment for people on the working family payments and those receiving the carers allowance and the disability allowance. So that's what they're there. But the carers are someone who hasn't seen a huge increase in the last 13 years.
No.
They never really see
And Nolian says, look, I'm hoping the carers will be looked after in the budget. And we say this all the time in the show. The money they save the government every year because they are at home looking after family. So that's
but there's always winners and losers. You know, this is the thing. It's so hard for the government to weigh up which way to go. And it's interesting that, as you said, carers have not received something in so long. Like, why not? Like, why do they not maybe get the support that they maybe deserve? Keep your text coming in, 0896 111 111. Let us know what you think about it. Or in any other ways, if you're a mortgage holder, whether variable and you've moved to fixed or whatever else. Renters, please do get in touch. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking about loneliness and what needs to be done to support those struggling with poor mental health here in Ireland.
Yeah, something that we hear about carers an awful lot, the loneliness surrounding that job. We'll see you back here very shortly.
You're very welcome back. Now, if you've been watching the show, you will know today is Budget Day, but maybe more importantly, you should know that today is also World Mental Health Day, when there is a global focus on the importance of minding our minds.
Here to discuss this and to answer some of your questions is psychotherapist Coleman Nocturne. Coleman, thank you so much for coming in to chat to us, because the last day you were here, we were talking about loneliness. And we had such a huge response that it just makes you go, oh my God, what is happening in this country. And when it comes to mental health, how do we fare globally, do you think? Are we paying attention to it enough?
I think it's interesting we have like a mental health day, you know, but I'd love to see it's focused very much on awareness, but not so much on action. You know, so we have lots of awareness, but we need mental health action day almost, because I think we're past the point of awareness at this stage. But it is about, you know, we tell people, you know, go and talk to someone, but who do they talk to? You know, we talk about what you need to do, but don't provide a service that's accessible for that. So for me, I think we need to move on to the next chapter of actually action. It's interesting. It's budget day, and we've notoriously had tiny percentages of the health budget being spent on mental health. So, you know, but from the point of view of, I think we need to move away from mental illness and think about mental fitness, and things like loneliness would be something that would really come into that. We don't know everything about what helps people feel mentally healthier, but we know for sure that loneliness makes us feel worse.
Exactly what you just said there, because we just did a whole special on what we're expecting in the budget. We didn't mention once the health service and what is put forward for mental health. And as you say, awareness is great, but actually doing something about it, because when you look at it, the allocation of 1.2 billion on mental health services it was in the last budget, but there's still 4,000 children, young adults waiting for treatment. Like, it's obviously not scratching the surface. So there's a big problem here.
Yeah, it's nowhere near it. I mean, the burden of illness, you're far more likely between the ages of 10 and 30 to have a mental illness than any other illness. But the budget doesn't represent that proportionately. It's like tiny percentages. Do you know what I mean? So from the point of view of, you have services, and look, there's enough people jumping on the pylon there. Yeah. They're under incredible pressure. But we have, I believe it's kind of at a third world standard in terms of what we offer people from a mental health perspective. You know, the waiting times, the lack of intervention, the standard of service. We've only had, you know, Mental Health Commission going around, you know, looking at the services and vetting regulating them to see that they're up to scratch. And those reports every report we hear about mental health is a poor one. We don't really have any champions in that way. But for me, Tommy, I mean, we need to stop concentrating on, you know, as Desmond Tutu would say, pulling people out of the stream. We need to go up the river and find out why they're falling in. And for me, it's much more about establishing good primary care service, being able to catch these children early rather than waiting to kind of firefight. And that's challenging, because I'm not so sure that's a great vote getter from the point of view of, because it's a long-term plan from that point of view. But for me,
that's the issue. It's another government that would be getting, possibly another government that could be getting the kudos for doing something, and it could have been set in motion 10 years ago.
Yeah, as one person said, you know, it's easier to build a clinic than it is to reform an environment. Yeah. You know what I mean? So from the point of view, we'll hear things about 2 beds added here and 3 beds added there, but we really have to find out, you know, in terms of, again, there's some good stuff happening about mental health teams in schools and having support for that, but it's tiny from the point of view of what needs to happen. And so from the point of view, as I say, mental health awareness, I think we've probably done that one, but mental health action. And it is about service delivery, but it's also about, we need to establish good primary care services where we can support people at the start of their mental health journey, not trying to firefight when they've gotten so bad that they need that level of intervention.
And one big impact on this has been the last couple of years in COVID. And when you were on earlier, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about loneliness, and how actually in Ireland, we've one of the highest, if not the highest rate of loneliness in the EU. In terms of this, like how big a part, like how detrimental do you think loneliness is to people's mental health?
I think it's hugely problematic. You know, from the point of view, we're all social beings, so we all seek connection, we all need it. But if you think about over the last year, yeah, COVID is one part of it, but there's also there's a lot of people working at home now who maybe don't see people from start to finish. There's a different culture. I mean, somebody said, you know, the ruination of Ireland was the introduction of electric gates, because, you know, years ago people would visit on spec. I remember my house. You'd see the lights in the driveway and say,
they're not here.
Yeah. But there was an element of that, you know, you could just, it was a much more social, communal element. Now, if I'm going to call to you, I'd have to text you 3 weeks in advance, and you'd have to wash the skirting boards before I come, and all this sort of, and it's so formalised. And I think there's lots of people out there who struggle with loneliness, who could probably benefit from a visit, but do we feel we almost need to give people permission to visit? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, I don't want to go over because I don't want to impose on someone.
100%,
and they could be,
it's become that, yeah.
You know, but somebody could be would really look forward to having someone call over that evening. So we've kind of lost that lovely, natural, communal sense of togetherness. And for me, that's massive. It's huge. You know?
We had such a huge response when you were last year, and even mentioning that you were coming back today. People have gotten in contact again because it does feel that they just want to talk to you. So we do have a voice note here from one of our viewers this morning for Coleman.
Loneliness for us is being a family with an autistic child who's deemed too much by society and events. He is 7, non-verbal, and has no friends, has never been invited on a play date. We're not included in any events by other people, and we spend the weekends alone looking for things to occupy his time and waiting for school to open on Monday.
Oh my goodness.
Coleman,
is there anything you could...
That's a story very close to my heart. My sister has 2 autistic boys and is in the same boat. She can't leave the house without a great deal of help and relies heavily on the support of, formalised kind of respite carers, that sort of stuff. But there's a perfect example of where we could actually do some help there. Alan spoke earlier about the need for carers who are doing this job all the time, the job of our health service in many ways. We need to put huge supports. People who are managing a child with a disability, it is like a sentence in terms of how your accessibility to other people. People may not want to come visit you because you almost seem like you're up to high dough. What I would say, and my sister would say this as well, a community of other parents of children with autism can be a huge support because they get it. They understand the levels of stress that you're under. But the solution to loneliness is social connection, and that's easily said, and it's harder to do. Like that lady said, they're maybe not felt welcome in places that they need to go to. But again, there are supportive communities of other people who might be in that boat. It's not an answer and it's not a solution, but from the point of view of what we need to do as a country is put far more supports in.
Could be a step.
Absolutely.
To go to one of these groups, to reach out to someone who knows how you're feeling.
Someone who gets it, and again, my sister would have lots of friends who have other children with autism. She's met through maybe the school and things like that. But it's incredibly isolating. And we need to do more.
I have another quick question I'd love to get through as well. We've got another one here. I'm 57, have not been in a relationship for 15 years. Both my kids are in Australia, and I only chat to them via video calls. My grandchildren think I live in the phone. I no longer work due to ill health. I have some friends and family around me, but I'm dreading the winter as the days are so long. I get so lonely. I cry a lot these days. I go to classes, but still feel super lonely lately. Is there any way I can overcome this?
Again, super difficult-ish situation. Like, how do you make friends in your late 40s, early 50s? How do you make connections? And a lot of it's kind of linked into kind of romantic relationships, but from the point of view, how do you make friendships? Much more difficult. In that situation, I would tell someone that you feel lonely. And again, I think it's that idea. I know people who live alone. I mightn't visit them because I don't know whether they want me to or not. But if somebody said, I'd really like more people in my life or more times.
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, almost.
It's almost like giving people permission to visit. It gets back to that idea that I don't know how we've come into this thing where we need permission to call in to see other people.
I see it too, yeah.
But there's other formalised things. You can, volunteering, you can get involved in, but there's only so many walking groups and book clubs that you can join.
She's in groups, like.
But again, it's about telling people, I would enjoy to spend, I see so many people who are lonely separately, who could, if they were just open with each other around it, could get something together. But we don't have enough social gathering opportunities for adults. We don't. And again, because everything is online now, it's almost like that's a substitute for it. But in fact, it acts as a deterrent, unfortunately.
Yeah, just need to bring back that community culture, which Ireland was so renowned for.
And that's something we could do. At a community level, we could make that, formalise it to begin with, but address the issue, which is we need to connect more and give people an opportunity to do that, and don't make it so difficult to do it.
And go to your neighbour. You know, be open and go make the effort as well.
I saw a knitting group the other day of people in their 20s all the way up to their 70s. It was amazing. They were all just sitting there knitting, having a chat.
Whatever you're into.
Like,
0896 111. We'd love to get your messages on this as well. I mean, some heartbreaking messages, but I'm sure that's only scratching the surface out there. Coleman Noctor, as always, psychotherapist, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. Really it's time now to get the news over with Aisling in the newsroom.
Thanks, Tommy. The headlines. The final details of the budget 2024 were agreed last night and will be announced in the Dáil later. It's expected to include a range of measures aimed at tackling the cost of living crisis. Welfare increases and tax cuts are among the measures which the Cabinet is expected to sign off on. The total budget package is set to top €10 billion. Israel has sealed the border with Gaza, which Hamas militants broke through on Saturday to launch a deadly wave of attacks. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned his country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, adding that Israel's Defence Forces' retaliation has only just begun. Around 1,000 people have died since Saturday's surprise attack. A motorcyclist in his 50s has died following a crash in County Westmeath. The crash happened on the N55 at Lissoy shortly before 6 o'clock yesterday evening. A technical examination of the scene will be conducted this morning.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Yes, sure, we're hanging out here with the dragon in the Enchanted Forest. We are making our way down to the spooky house of ours. That's all to come in the 9 o'clock hour. Quick look at weather slipping past 8:30 here this morning, and you'll be glad to hear the dry and settled start out there for most areas. Some hit and miss passing showers through the Midwest, up around northern areas as well now in those moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Now across today, those winds will pick up pace, strong and gusty for a time. Elsewhere, a system of rain building in across the northwest. That'll sink southeastwards as the day goes on, but holding very mild, in fact exceptionally mild for this time of year. Top values of around 17 to 21, and into tonight then we'll see that rain push out southwards again, tracking southeast. In behind it, a lot drier and a lot more settled as we work our way into your Wednesday morning, with overnight lows there no lower than 7 to 11 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up for now. We'll make our way towards the House of Horrors and we'll be back again live at 9.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Thanks for staying with us. Now we're going peanuts butter. Peanuts butter mad this morning in the kitchen.
Peanuts butter?
Peanut. It says nuts butter, but it's peanut butter nuts. No.
We're going peanuts for the dish today.
Jennifer Carroll is here and she's making a crispy chicken satay bowl.
If she works away with her carrots there.
There you go.
Hi,
Raging
Jen.
away. Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
How are you? So it is, we're going peanuts, but it's peanut butter.
So there's nut in it, but it's just in the peanut butter.
Yeah, okay.
Satay chicken.
Satay
Crunchy,
chicken, crunchy. How do we make it?
So we start off by just prepping the chicken, which is really, really simple. You're just going to get an egg, and then you're going to egg wash a chicken breast. This is something you can make for yourself or for the family. Obviously, if it's just for yourself, you're just going to do your one chicken breast.
Or two.
Or two.
Tommy Bow. Yeah, Tommy Bow.
Horse them in.
One chicken breast never be enough for Tommy.
No. Well, yeah, no, it wouldn't.
Now, I just have plain panko breadcrumbs here,
yeah.
but you can use any breadcrumbs. You can add a little bit of seasoning if you like, and you just coat it like that.
So they bought breadcrumbs then?
Yeah, panko usually just store-bought in a bag
Packet.
in the Asian
And you can
section.
put kind of flour on it first as well, can't you?
You can do the corn flour, and the
then...
corn flour will make it extra crispy, but
Yeah.
this is just probably a little bit healthier, like a little bit like if you're
that's what we're all
focused
about,
on the
Jen.
calories and the health, then you would go.
Healthy. Well, it looks very healthy here, so it does. It's
And
delicious.
then I use these bacon sheets or your parchment paper. If you have an air fryer, just throw it in the air fryer for 15 minutes, or you can pop it in the oven and it'll be lovely and crispy. That's it. So the chicken's done. Now you can add different spices into the panko breadcrumbs to mix it up a little bit. And then for the sauce, which is so simple, it's really, really basic. I just have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Again, depending on how much you're making, I usually do it by eye. But,
do you go crunchy now, or do you go smooth?
I like crunchy, just because I like a bit of a crunch in this salad. This is quite a crunchy salad. A lot of the veg that you're using in it is raw and crunchy, but I am more of a crunchy peanut butter person.
Definitely,
yeah. All the coleslaw now is lovely. Oh, God, there's a real kick off that coleslaw.
Yeah. So this has sriracha sauce in it. You can use a little bit of spice, maybe chili flakes, and depending on how spicy you like it, you could do maybe 3 peanut butter to 1.
It is.
And then after the sriracha sauce, I just have some hoisin sauce. So it's kind of sweet, salty, nutty, crunchy, all of those things.
Okay. Yeah.
And just to kind of loosen it up a little bit, I just add in water as I whisk it. So I just have some water here just to kind of loosen it up a little bit, because this is what's going to be poured all over the coleslaw. Okay. So instead of like a kind of mayonnaise base, it's just more of like a spicy, salty, nutty, crunchy kind of sauce. And like I said, you could add more peanut butter and less sriracha if you don't like it spicy and you like it a little bit more sweet and salty. But I quite like spicy food, so I tend to go a little bit heavy on the... And you're just going to keep adding in the water until you get a nice loose texture.
One of the big things here is the coleslaw, isn't it?
The coleslaw. And I only made this a couple of weeks ago at home, and the reason I kind of came up with the dish was, you know, when you have a load of random veg in the fridge and everything's kind of going off and you want to get rid of it. Every time I make this, I feel like there's something a little bit different in it. But the kind of main vegetables that I would put in it is the red and the white cabbage, because that's the nice crunch, the fresh kind of clean taste. And then I usually just grate a carrot. I'll throw that in on top, and it's nice and colourful as well.
Right.
So I have some cucumber, but I mean, you could slice up some lettuce, you could throw in whatever you have there, and then red onion is a big thing as well.
And then you just mix the sauce in with that then.
And then, so I just mix all the veggies up. Once you have them all in your bowl, give them a nice mix, and then you'll just pour the sauce over.
Okay,
so it's nice and colourful and fresh. And then this is the sauce here. Now, this one that I made, is probably the one I should have given you, has less spice in it.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more...
No, like, it is spicy, but it's really tasty, though. It's really
nice. I think with all of the veg in it, and because the chicken is plain, it kind of balances it a little bit, because the kick is more off the slaw than anything.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. But it's lovely. Do you know what? It's really refreshing. It's like a summer dish, nearly.
It is, and it's not, and it's a handy one because it honestly takes 15 minutes to throw together.
How handy is that? And it's very healthy.
And you can use a lot. I made it, and obviously I would kind of track my calories and protein. And when I worked it out, there's nearly 50 grams of protein in it.
Okay.
If you have your large chicken.
If that was in the air fryer, goes in for how long in the air fryer?
15 minutes. If you were doing one breast.
And then in the oven.
And then it would be the same. I usually turn it once, about 8 minutes each side,
so
until it's like golden
here. We
crispy.
have one in the oven, do we?
We have one in the oven here, and this is a slaw that I had already made. So all I do with the cooked chicken breast is slice it up and add it on top. Now, you can add some extra things on top if you like, like sliced spring onion, or you could go for some fried, the crispy fried onion. I have some of that there.
Oh, lovely, yeah.
That does be lovely on it as well, because again, it's just some extra crunch.
Oh, very good.
But you just slice the chicken breast up. And again, it's so simple to make. And you could do it without the breadcrumbs. I've done it before with shredded fresh chicken and have it almost in the fridge in a container.
Oh, yeah. That chicken's gorgeous there. Look at that.
That's just panko breadcrumbs. That's it. There's no other kind of seasoning, anything like that. And then I just add the crispy onions. Just for a little bit of flavour.
Oh, yeah, you can buy them like that, can't you?
You can get them in a pot.
Because remember, I need the 2 chicken breasts, so I'd probably go for that one then as well. Well,
can we show people at home? There it is there. Let's have a look at that. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
No. Stop it, that is not what you do.
No, no, do.
Jennifer, thank you so much
for
talking to us. How do you find you online?
Jen's Journey on Instagram.
Jen's Journey, if you want to find out any more. Now, the Skin Nerd is going to be with us after the break. Muireann, what TikTok trends will we be debunking this week?
Look at her.
Get my glasses on. Oh, Janie Mackers, I don't like that now. It's time to say goodbye, eye bags, and hello to bright and radiant eyes. Apparently, this thing does something. Jennifer Rock is talking skincare trends after the break. Welcome back. We have so much to get through.
Yes.
Thanks to stars like Pamela Anderson making headlines with her no makeup look at Paris Fashion Week. It's never been more on trend. They take extra care of your skin.
Joining us now to talk some of the biggest skincare trends at the moment is Jennifer Rock, aka the Skin Nerd. Good morning to you, Jennifer.
Good morning.
Let's start with Pamela there and that like coming all no makeup.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Is it something that we should be trying to do?
I think the reality is that unfortunately society almost expects, if I may say, women at times and men as well at times to wear makeup. What I love about it is that she was just unapologetically herself. And I think you have to want that for people. So I think it's something we should be embracing. Ultimately, I suppose selfishly, Alan, to be honest, that's why I love skincare. Because if you feel good in your skin, like her skin looks incredible. So she obviously looks after her skin to a degree. She's very little pigmentation considering where she grew up in the world and how much beach time she's had in her career example. So she really does have beautiful skin. So that's where if you feel good in your skin, you're more likely to not want to have to, example, camouflage or play with makeup.
She's also Pamela Anderson.
She's also Pamela Anderson.
What about, do you say to people who just put on makeup every day, like they won't go to the shop without a makeup? Is it good for your skin to be putting on stuff every single day?
Two things I say to that is, firstly, always SPF, that's non-negotiable. In terms of makeup, people that put on every day, I think it's a confidence piece, and that's the hard part. And that's why people use makeup. But you can choose makeup that is good for the skin, not just that camouflages. So looking out for the ingredients, like you're looking for titanium dioxide or zinc oxides. It's not just about the longevity and the pigment, it's about good skincare that will add to skincare as opposed to take away from it. And cleansing every night.
Yeah,
Top
good
tip.
cleansing.
Yeah, 100%.
Double cleanse.
Double
Okay.
cleanse, baby.
You pop on your little glasses there.
Oh,
so
Does this get rid of all my crow's feet, is it?
This skincare trend, right?
Yes.
It's doing the rounds. It's LED skin therapy. Over 170 million views on TikTok. Remind us what it is and why are people doing this?
So LED stands for light emitting diode. So essentially it's proven, like data has shown, that different lights have a different benefit on the skin. Now, unlike sunlight that isn't ideal for the skin because it causes pigmentation, this actually penetrates into the lower layer of the skin and triggers your collagen and elastin. So as you can see on our beautiful model, Alan Hughes, essentially it's sitting kind of to the side of the eye. So it means that it's helping with dark circles, but lines, wrinkles, crow's feet. It really is great for hydrating as well. So you literally put it on. It's so lightweight. Like I walked around the house.
You're going to go out, are you? You're
But it really works.
Say if you're at a certain age where you're... Do you always still have collagen, or do you get a certain age where you just don't produce collagen anymore?
It starts to decline. Some studies say between 25 to 30, so the studies are non-conclusive. Each study says slightly different, but basically between 25 to 30, it starts to go on a 1% decrease per annum. So you do the math by 50, 60, you've nearly 30, 40% less than when you were in your 20s. So what this does, you put it on, it's very lightweight. I walk around the house like this. My son came home from work last night and there I was. He got a bit of a fright. He walked in the door and I'm walking around with these on. But I don't notice them, they're so light. You press the button on the side, they stay on for 3 minutes, they're on an auto timer, and voila, they're about €110. So you invest in it, but it lasts you for years. 3 minutes, it turns itself off. You don't even have to remember it. So you can just keep walking around with it on. If you're doing that on a regular basis, consistency is always going to be key in skincare. That's ultimately what
Genuinely, do you think these are good?
Genuinely, this one in particular, it's a brilliant brand. So this one is, just so I get it right, is ALYA, so Alia. It's the Vanity Planet. It's a brand I really love. Vanity Planet is essentially a company that has a lot of technology in skincare. This one is FDA approved, so it has the correct data. LED is all about the correct nanometers. I won't get too nerdy, but this has got great nanometers within it, meaning it does truly work. Typically LED, when I came across it was years ago working in a clinic in Australia, and that's when I came across it first, huge over there. So it's usually done by derms because you put it on after a treatment and it really calms the skin. This is now being brought into your home, so you can do it regularly.
3 minutes and it turns off itself.
3 minutes and do it consistently. And take photographs, Alan, you'll see it. I got mine from CH2D in County Kerry.
Okay.
So they're really real and
Oh, there, it's gone off.
Yeah.
But if people are thinking about Christmas,
it's
you know what I mean?
lovely
Like you can
present.
start thinking about presents.
Exactly.
We're going to move on to oil planing. We've shown the videos of these before. So what is oil planing and dermaplaning?
So dermaplaning is a concept that's typically carried out ideally by a facialist or a nurse or a dermatologist. It's essentially the use of a surgical blade that it almost looks like, you know, when men get their kind of hot shave, it's the same kind of a tool and premise. So it's a stainless steel, quite a sharp blade.
This is it here. That's dermaplaning, right?
So you'll see that this isn't being done at home, and my reluctance with it being done at home is that I'm not sure people are cleaning it properly. I'm not sure where they're getting the tools. It's typically an in-clinic treatment or an in-dermatologist clinic. What's the difference of what's it doing? So essentially, it almost kind of mechanically exfoliates the top layer of the skin, so it will allow what you put in after any serum to penetrate better. Plus, as you can see there, she is almost shaving off, if you will, or kind of scraping or blading off what's called vellus hair. We all have that fluffy hair on our face, and that's what it removes. So a lot of brides like to get it done, or people that get photo shoots an awful lot. It just takes that excess hair away. Where some people can't have, say, laser and so on and so forth because they don't have dark hair. If you've got quite blonde hair, that's what people consider. Oil planing is essentially it done without the skin being dry, but with an oil on. So for those that are quite sensitive, they would opt for oil planing. And usually it's your practitioner that would choose whether you have oil or derma. Same concept, both do the same thing.
Don't do it at home.
I'm not a fan of it being done at home. I've just seen a few too many DMs on our own page where people have shown us what's gone wrong.
And I found that my hair came back. Well, I did it during lockdown, like everyone else. I was like, I'll have a go off that. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I did.
I'll have a go at that.
She looks gorgeous.
Norma Desmond in the building.
What am I doing?
Okay, so essentially, look, there's a huge concept of skincare at the moment, like about beauty, sleep, beauty, hygiene. We all know that you should be getting your X amount of hours per sleep per night. Some say 6, some say 7. We go with the RDA. But ultimately, how you sleep is important too. And from a skincare perspective, realistically, you'll see it's quite large on TikTok. There's almost these pillows that you can get that are kind of like a bolster. Now, there's a couple that are quite dramatic that essentially you attach it to your own head.
Seriously.
This is slightly...
For God's sake, come on.
So the whole concept is that you don't roll, you don't tilt, and as a result,
do you sleep?
You don't sleep. Contradicts the whole purpose. But the whole point is that you don't friction your skin, you don't lean into your pillow. I don't know about you, but I face plant the pillow, and you can, like from a facialist perspective, you can usually tell what side somebody sleeps on, because what happens over time is the nasolabial line, so your mouth line, becomes more compressed, around the eye becomes more compressed.
Silk pillows are good.
Silk pillowcases for a skin perspective, definitely a yes. This is the skin on the scalp and the hair. It's an Irish brand, Curly Coats, their silk turban, 100% mulberry silk. Denise is a fantastic hairdresser. I sleep in this every single night. Selfishly and aesthetically, it keeps my hair looking slightly better. There's no friction on it. I don't friction my hair, so it doesn't get
Do you have a silk pillow as well?
And a silk pillow. I'm a diva. I'll just go for it. But silk is antibacterial. It's really cooling on the skin. And for this, it just means that your hair wakes up beautiful the next day. Genuinely, I think you're actually rocking. It comes in lots of different colours, $39.99, really affordable, lovely gift, as you said.
Right, you're staying with us, aren't you?
I am indeed.
Yeah, we're going to do more. Do you have some questions for Jennifer about any of these things or whatever? 0896 111 111. Jennifer's going to be here in the 9 o'clock hour, along with lots more. We'll talk to you shortly on Ireland Day.
See you then.
Hello, welcome back to Ireland Day, and we have got coming up this hour a pop princess, a night king, and a skincare queen.
Oh, bum, love it.
Fresh off her first ever Irish tour singer, Lea Heart talks bringing back the flash mob, penning powerful lyrics and sharing the stage with Lewis Capaldi.
Yes, the Skin Nerd has stayed with us to answer your skin-related questions. So, Jennifer, do you have anything you'd like people to be asking you today, something you're ready for?
I'm ready for it all, Miriam. But yeah, honestly, I think this time of the year we start to get quite conscious of our eye area feeling our best coming up to December. I won't say the other word just yet, but hand creams are a huge conversation this time of the year as it starts to get that little bit colder. So send them all in.
Lovely. I need one of those.
Miriam just went, oh yes, hand cream.
Sorry, I'm actually going.
Oh yes, hand cream. She's getting like her.
Why should you have retinol on it? Anyway, we'll talk about it.
Anyway, yes, send those questions in to us. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you. And Deric's making some spooky friends in Dublin this morning. Where are you, Deric?
Well, Al, we've landed down here in the Wax Museum in Dublin, and things are about to get a lot more scarier because we've landed down here at the Horror Hotel.
Hello, Deric. By any chance, are you staying the night?
Yes, one night, please.
One night, and will Mirren, Tommy, and Alan be joining you?
I hate this kind of stuff. Oh, guys, do you want to join me here at the Horror Hotel?
Got a bed big enough for all of us.
Yes. Put us down. Put us all down. I hate this stuff.
Running out of the middle of the night package.
Yes. Put us all down.
Yes, okay. Oh, hi. This is like the Hotel California. You can check out.
Thanks very much, Deric. some fright this morning. Time
Thoughts
now.
of four of us in a hotel together.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Let's go
the same
over
bed together.
and, get the news now over with Aisling in the newsroom.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. Ministers Michael McGrath and Paschal Donohoe will deliver Budget 2024 this lunchtime. It's expected to deliver extra supports for tens of thousands of homeowners with mortgages, renters, people in receipt of social welfare and small to medium-sized businesses struggling with the rising cost of living. Speaking ahead of this morning's Cabinet meeting, which will sign off on the budget, Minister Paschal Donohoe said today's budget is focused on helping those with the cost of living.
It is a different budget to what we delivered a year ago. The amount of growth in day-to-day public spending is at a lower pace than the budget that was brought forward for last year. And also the one-off measures that we have brought forward have been changed to reflect the fact that while inflation is still present in all of our lives, it is growing at a slower pace than it did a year ago. So the budget is of a different scale, but it is still, by historical standards, a big budget.
Israel has sealed the border with Gaza, which Hamas militants broke through on Saturday to launch a deadly wave of attacks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned his country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group, adding that the Israel Defense Forces retaliation has only just begun. Around 1,000 people have died since Saturday's surprise attack. Dozens of people have also been kidnapped by Hamas. EU foreign ministers are meeting today to discuss the escalating conflict, while the US has begun delivering critically needed military equipment to Israel.
We're obviously at the early stage of the process of evaluating, our ability to support what the IDF needs. And just as we have with Ukraine, we're going to weigh, obviously, the impacts of request to our readiness. But I would argue that just as we've leaned forward with Ukraine, I think, the intent is to lean forward in support of Israel. And, one thing that is really important in terms of the munitions in particular and our ability to support both potentially the Israelis and the Ukrainians simultaneously.
Meanwhile, 2 men were arrested by Gardaí last night after crowds protested outside the Israeli embassy in Dublin. The protesters were carrying placards and Palestinian flags. Several hundred people attended the demonstration at the embassy. One person threw red paint at the door. The crowd dispersed at around 11 o'clock. A motorcyclist in his 50s has died following a crash in County Westmeath. The crash happened on the N55 at Lissoy shortly before 6 o'clock yesterday evening. A technical examination of the scene will be conducted this morning, while a post-mortem on the man's body is expected to take place at Mullingar Regional Hospital. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to come forward. A man in his 20s is due in court this morning following a €720,000 drug seizure at Dublin Airport yesterday. 36 kilograms of cannabis was discovered when revenue officers stopped and searched the baggage of a passenger who arrived from New York. The man was arrested and has since been charged. He's due to appear before the Criminal Courts of Justice at 10:30 this morning. And finally, in the US, a horticulture teacher set a new world record for the world's heaviest pumpkin, weighing 2,749 pounds. Travis Gaynor drove the pumpkin for 33 hours to make the contest and see his hard work pay off at the 50th World Championship Pumpkin in Half Moon Bay. Travis, who also won the contest last year, received $30,000 in prize money.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Thank you, Jeremy. Live down here at the Wax Museum in Dublin. Coming up later this hour, we're taking you on a tour of the museum itself, as well as giving you a little bit of an early Halloween spook. So that's all to come at 9:35. Yeah, that's all on the way in another little bit. Now, we're getting past 9 o'clock here together. Weather-wise, in fact, we saw that system of showers earlier on, now hitting parts of Cavan, in fact, through Cavan Town in particular. Still hitting parts of the Midwest as well, but elsewhere it is brightening up now. You'll be glad to hear as the morning progresses and those moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Now, right across the day, in fact, those winds will be gusty at times. Elsewhere, it is that mixture of sunshine and showers, especially to the northwest. They're going to arrive in by late afternoon into early evening, but a very, very mild day. In fact, unseasonably mild for this time of year. top temps of around 17 to 20, possibility of 21, would you believe, for the for this time of year. Into tonight, then we're going to see a mainly showery one as that system tracks southeastwards. In behind it from the north, an improving picture, a lot drier with that mixture of cloudy and clear spells, and temperatures there 5 to 7 degrees across northern areas, a lot milder than the further south, we think, as that rain passes through, with valleys in and around 12 to 14 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up for now. We're back again live at 9:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Hello, welcome back. Now, we were doing pre-analysis of what's going to be happening in the budget a little bit later on when Michael McGrath takes to the floor of the Dáil to announce everything that's there, but we kind of know.
But we know basically everything, yes. And we were talking about, are the carers going to be helped in this budget? And Phil says, I'm a carer. I spend 4 hours a day bringing my daughter to her day centre, and we spend €100 just on fuel. The 236 a week is not enough. When I get older and cannot care for her, I don't know what will happen.
Very difficult, all right. And carers look to be one of the ones who are missing out again. Tracy says, I care for my daughter. I want to work. I miss being employed, but we provide 24/7 care and are taken for granted. If the curtain falls and the state has to carry the burden that obviously carers carry, the cost for carers, it'll be an absolute tsunami.
And it will be.
And Donna says, what about credits for foster carers? And last year we were promised a rise in our payments. We're in crisis. There aren't enough carers. We can't afford to take on foster children. So we'll be looking towards the budget later on today to see what happens there.
It looks like middle-income families as well are going to be quids in. I suppose, could you say that in this budget as well? Singles seem to be the ones left out. Jen said, I'm 35, I'm single, I have my own little house, which I'm very grateful for. However, my mortgage company informed me last month that I come off fix and go variable this month. My mortgage has doubled every month. This I wasn't expecting. I understand families need to help, but the single people working 5 days a week and trying to do it all on their own need help too.
Yeah, and I wonder if she's going to miss out now because if they're going back for the mortgage, because it looks like there will be mortgage interest relief for people who didn't fix in 2022.
I think variables might get something.
Oh, variables are going to get it. Sorry.
So she,
if you're fixed, you won't, but variable and people who are on variable and tracker. And Lisa says, I think it's an absolute disgrace that people who are on trackers paying minimum payments for a very long period of time, and remember it was like zero for like a long time, payments for a very long period of time are being helped again. What about the people that were on variables and never got any help and then have been paying huge mortgages for the last 18 years? So it looks like, what is it, 1,250?
Well, when you're on a variable, we did have a low interest rate for a very long time, the lowest that there had been in
trackers
a very
would
long
have been
time.
extremely low.
I've never
heard
If you were on a tracker, you were quids in for a very long time.
Lorcan and I, when we were chatting from the communications clinic, he said he thinks that this is the biggest mistake that the government are going to make. That you're pitting...
The mortgage interest relief,
you're pitting two people against each other. People who have got the tracker mortgages against those people who had a tracker and maybe thought, you know what, I see what's coming here, I'm going to get myself a fixed.
And now they're going to miss out. You're being penalised on this.
So it's two people in the street next to each other and one's going to miss out and the other one isn't.
So it looks like if you're on a variable or a tracker still, you will get interest relief, but if you're fixed, you won't.
Yeah, we'll find out more again, obviously, a little bit later on. Tony says, just regarding old age pensioners who seem to have no voice, a €12 increase is not sufficient to keep up with the cost of living. The minute we're mentioned, it starts a conversation about the ticking time bomb and is dismissed altogether. Yet when we were working for the last 50 years and supporting pensioners, quite rightly, we never complained. Now it seems we are a burden to the state, honestly. €12. And that's one thing that I don't think we take seriously enough when it comes to pensioners, private pensions at a younger age, telling people in their 20s get a pension.
Is that what the one that Social Justice Ireland were hoping to get €25?
Yeah, well, they wanted social welfare payments to increase by €25 to keep in line with inflation.
Just to keep in line that a living, to the cost of living. Now, and on tomorrow's show, we're going to be speaking to the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, and the Minister for Education, Norma Foley. Now, if you've questions you'd like to put to them, send us them now, and I'm sure lots of you will want to ask them questions. You can WhatsApp us on 089 611 111. That's for Taoiseach Micheál Martin and Education Minister
Do
Norma
send them
Foley.
in for us because we will try and put all your questions to the two ministers. And listen, if you feel that you've really missed out and the government have made a big, big mistake, we'd love to hear from you.
We would. We'll be back with you on Ireland AM in just a minute. Welcome back to Ireland AM. From shooting to TikTok stardom to supporting Lewis Capaldi, singer Lea Heart. Her star is continuously on the rise.
It sure is. And she recently came up with quite the unique way to promote her latest single, Stolen, in a form of, well, we haven't seen a flash mob in a while.
We know what they are.
We sure do. That's taking it back. Let's take a quick look.
Sorry, no, that's the train to Roscommon. What did you do with all that love? With all that love you stole from us? What did you do with all that love? With all that love you stole from us? What did you do with all that love? With all that
Lea Heart.
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Good
The
morning.
kids aren't going to like stroll in through the studio.
We
here
never
for-
know. Oh, I wish. Yeah, we'll see.
You never know, wouldn't it? The flash mob is back.
It
with a
is.
bunch of kids. That's a good idea.
Has to be done. I remember doing my first ever flash mob. Well, I only did one in my life, actually, when I was like 7 for my stage school. I remember how excited I was. So when we had this idea, I was like, okay, well, Stolen's written from the kids' perspective, so it has to be kids' voices. So it's like, let's give this a go. And it was interesting. We had ups and downs, but you know what? They were just so happy to be there. We had so much fun. And we'll definitely be doing some more.
The monk was just there going, I'm just trying to get a train.
I
You know what I
know,
mean? Like,
I
and then
know.
he's like, what
It's
is
not
going on?
Roscommon, you know.
What's happening? You're not doing
The
that.
confused reactions are actually better than the people that
They
are like
are.
clapping along.
What's happening? Because they're going, is this a flash mob? Is
Yeah,
that what's
I know,
happening?
I know.
So, like, did you just go to a bunch of parents and you're like, how are you lads going to just take a few kids?
Yeah, so
for
it's
a
the
day and walk
local
around with them?
stage school from my town. And the parents were on board
Off you
straight
go.
away. Yeah, the kids
Yeah.
are happy out. So yeah, it was good crack.
Is it nerve-wracking? Like, obviously you're well used to performing and stuff at this stage, but like singing in the middle of a train station.
So
or the-
different.
Yeah, do you mean? And,
So much more nerve wracking. Like put
I'd
me on a
imagine
stage
so.
in front of how many people, I'll be grand. But this, when people are like, who is your one? Like,
just kind of walking through singing it.
and you're starting when it's like silent or like people are just trying to get on with their day, and I'm like, excuse me.
Hi.
Yeah.
How's it going? But the thing is, you said there you wanted to have a children's choir because the song's Stolen. It's a very personal song
It
to you,
is.
but it's from, like, tell us about it. It's from children's perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of about my own personal experiences with loss in my childhood. So it was really important that it was kids' voices because for me, the song's written through the eyes of a kid. And I don't mean someone who's 3 years old, but we're all kids, you know? So yeah, it was really important that it was their voices on the song. And Stolen is just, it's about grieving someone who hasn't died, which is a very odd feeling, and kind of processing when someone promises to be there forever and then they're not anymore. So it was definitely like more raw and personal and honest for me, but it's a side of me that I really, really wanted to show. And people seem to be relating to it in whatever way, so.
Yeah, because your music's normally so upbeat. And
It is,
your
yeah.
videos and everything,
Yeah.
like living this amazing life and performing and stuff. So you're kind of showing a more vulnerable side to yourself. Was it difficult to kind of put that out there and put pen to paper on something that is a bit more difficult?
Definitely. I think it's a song that I needed to write for maybe 4 years, and every time I went to the studio I was like, no, let's write another happy upbeat song. And then one day in March I was like, you know what, I actually have a lot to say, and the song came together really quickly because I think it had been there for a while. Now don't get me wrong, I love singing the real upbeat pop songs and I'm never going to stop that, but I think with social media everything sometimes can look amazing and you're writing another happy song and it's great. But in reality, everyone has stuff going on in their personal life. And I think Stolen was my way of showing people a bit more about who I am and what I've gone through and what means a lot to me and what I want to write about.
Because it is interesting, I suppose, coming from Ireland, there are an awful lot of musicians over the years, very political and personal songs that are speaking to a wider community. And when it comes to something like this, that's autobiographical from the heart, something you've been through. Are you worried about some of the people who are going to hear it, who are going to go, well, that's about me? Like, was that something that you take on board or were like, no, this is mine, I can do
It definitely is my story. and my feelings, but I think it's written about a wider topic and, you know, something that I think maybe isn't talked about as much as it should be. And I know when I was going through these feelings growing up, sometimes I felt like, is anyone else in my school going through this, or does everyone have the perfect family, you know? So I kind of realised...
That's what it is, someone kind of going away when you're a child and you're like, sorry, you're meant to be here minding me and protecting me.
A family dynamic changing in whatever form that is, exactly. And as a kid, you kind of maybe start to think, did I do something wrong, or why didn't they stay? And you might think it's because of you, and it's never, ever the case. So, yeah, for me, it was just important to kind of talk about it and share that, you know, there's so many different ways that a family is nowadays.
So many different ways.
I mean?
Exactly, the traditional family is not something that we have anymore.
100%.
And it seems, listen, it seems to have resonated with so many people, because I think what has had over 4.5 million views on TikTok. Like, it's absolutely insane. And the flash mobs are something different as well, a different way of getting it out there. You've also just finished your own tour as well.
Yes.
Like, it's an exciting time. Like, you're really on this crest of a wave that just seems to be going flying at the minute.
Yeah, doing my first ever tour was something always at the top of my bucket list. So it went amazing. There's some clips where I kind of got off the stage and like went into the middle of the crowd, and we all had to sing a song together. And I was trying not to get emotional, because I think when you hear people singing back lyrics that you've written and that means so much to you, it's such a strange but amazing feeling.
That's the dream.
I know, it really is, yeah.
That's what he walks around in all the time.
I know,
Just people surround him. He's just like, yeah.
Will you try what I think these lyrics I've been working on?
He's ready to go, Leah. He is ready to go.
He would be involved
in a vocals, I think.
Because your little brother goes up with you sometimes. He was just saying, like, your brother goes on stage and people are mad for him.
Yeah, so my little brother just turned 10, and last year we started like a bit of a tradition of writing a song about his age, because he was like, I want to write a song, but what do we write one about? And I was like, let's write about what you know. But it's so funny now, because people in the audience are like kind of chanting for him to come up. And I'm like, okay, gotta do what the people want, you know? So
to be fair, he looked like he's delighted. He looks like he's loving the videos.
Oh, loving life.
Did he come up on stage?
Yeah, so in Galway, it wasn't planned, and it wasn't like, oh, we planned it, we pretended that we didn't plan it. Like, we literally had no idea what we were doing. We dragged him up, and he was just delighted to be up there, and we winged it, and it went great, and everyone seemed to love it. So I'm like, maybe we need to make it part of the set going forward. I don't know.
Yeah, take him out of school. Yeah, I'm to take kids out of school. It's grand.
How cool would that be?
Because I think my mum would be too impressed.
I'm just sitting there. But so when he's sitting there going, okay, Lee, obviously we have this dynamic and we're amazing together. People love us. 4.6 million views, and then you go off and you support Lewis Capaldi at the Three Arena. He's like, excuse me, I'm the man in your life.
Yeah.
How dare you? That's a nice call to get, isn't it?
Oh, wow. It was so cool.
Like, it's huge.
Yeah, I think playing the Three Arena is one thing. Like, you know, growing up, going to so many gigs there. So getting on that stage is super special.
Yeah.
Especially, I look up to Lewis Capaldi and his songs so much. So it was a really, really cool experience. And he's just as funny backstage.
Is he? Yeah. He's such a legend, but he's such an incredible songwriter and singer as well. Like, did you get any tips? Obviously, we saw a picture of you with him. Like, did you get to kind of hang out with him? Because you hear of a lot of people who open for these bands, whatever else, and actually don't get to hang out. Was he quite open with that?
Oh, completely. It was very informal setting. Like, he had like a tattoo artist setting up, and some of his band were getting tattoos. It was very, very chill. And yeah, we were just chatting about life, really. I actually gave him, I wanted to give him something Irish, so I got him like this Irish FAI, like kind of jersey half-zip thing, and he was loving life. He was trialling it, you know, backstage and everything, so I was like, oh, well, there's an icebreaker for
I've done something.
Yeah.
It's actually happened. Because this is, when it comes to, like, starting online, starting on TikTok, songs going viral there. And I know, like, Adele is sitting down all the time going, I'm not making music for a TikTok generator. I need to just have whole songs.
Yeah.
You really have done that. Like, you show that you can do so many different genres and that you're an amazing writer. Then when it kind of goes through to radio play, because I know it's such a huge topic about Irish women not getting played on Irish radio stations. You were played a lot on Irish radio stations.
The support since I started from all the radio stations has been amazing, and I think we're continuously seeing more and more females being played, and I think everyone deserves that chance, because hearing your song on radio, no matter how many times you hear it in your car or in the studio, hearing it on radio is unbeatable.
It has to be really special, like it's surreal.
It always sounds different. It sounds better on radio. I don't know what they do, but it just sounds like crisp. But there's so many like females coming up, like, you know, from Jazzy, who's doing amazing, to like Ruth Ann, Sive Skelly, like everyone's nailing it. So it's amazing to see.
Well, listen, it's like women's solo artists like yourself continue. You're also supporting the women's football team as well, writing supporter song for them, which is amazing too. Listen, you're playing in a festival coming up soon as well. People want to check you out.
Yeah, so at the end of the month, I'm playing at Puka Fest, which I never realised Halloween originates in Ireland. I never knew that until I started chatting with their education system. I know. I started chatting to
watch us every year. We tell everyone.
Samhain is Irish. Towers.
I know. So I'm really excited. I'm like, do I dress up? Do I do like Lea Heart takes Barbie? Or do I do like scary vibes? I don't know. But we're going to come up with a cool outfit and it's going to be amazing. I think they have like storytellers to podcast to music to everything.
And you're doing Bingo Loco at it, is that right?
I love Bingo Loco.
I love Bingo Loco.
From Halloween to Bingo Loco.
So this is at Puka Festival. You can find out more at pukafestival.com. That festival's getting bigger and bigger every year. That is going to be absolutely great crack. October 29th at Bingo Loco. Lea Heart, thank you so much. A pleasure to have you in.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Next time we'll make the brother come, flash mob.
We're having the choir. Yeah, no problem.
And me with my own microphone.
I can't wait for that.
Sorted. Thank you, Lea. It is time now to get the news. Here's Aisling Roche.
Thanks, Tommy. The headlines. Ministers Michael McGrath and Paschal Donoghue will deliver Budget 2024 this lunchtime. It's expected to deliver extra supports for tens of thousands of homeowners with mortgages, renters, people in receipt of social welfare and small to medium-sized businesses struggling with the rising cost of living. Both Taoiseach Lea Varadkar and the Minister for Public Expenditure Paschal Donoghue spoke ahead of this morning's Cabinet meeting, which will sign off on the budget.
I think it's going to be mainly good news. There'll be a significant income tax and USC package, reducing the amount of income tax people have to pay, help with the cost of living in the run up to Christmas and also afterwards, particularly with a focus on energy bills. There'll be help for small business and farmers, and also a social welfare package put together by Minister Humphreys, and that will involve help for pensioners, help for people in receipt of social welfare payments.
It is a different budget to what we delivered a year ago. The amount of growth in day-to-day public spending is at a lower pace than the budget that was brought forward for last year. And also the one-off measures that we have brought forward have been changed to reflect the fact that while inflation is still present in all of our lives, it is growing at a slower pace than it did a year ago. So the budget is of a different scale, but it is still, by historical standards, a big budget.
Israel has sealed the border with Gaza, which Hamas militants broke through on Saturday to launch a deadly wave of attacks. The Prime Minister has warned his country will use enormous force against the Hamas militant group. A motorcyclist in his 50s has died following a crash in County Westmeath. The crash happened on the N55 at Lissoy shortly before 6 o'clock yesterday evening. Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to come forward.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Well, Ger, coming up in the next few minutes, we're going to be taking you on a tour of the Wax Museum here in Dublin, as well as the Horror Hotel in the run-up to Halloween. Promises to be spooky. That's all to come in the next few while. Now, quick look at weather. And it is, you'll be glad to hear, a dry and settled start out there this morning. A couple of hit-and-miss showers now hitting parts of Cavan through northern Leinster, but elsewhere holding pretty decent now. There's moderate to locally fresh southwesterly winds. Into this afternoon, winds will be gusty for a time. Elsewhere, we will see a system of rain develop through the northwest into early evening. Top temps, very, very mild out there today, 16 to 20, even 21 degrees at best. And then into tonight, that system of showers tracking southeastwards across the country. In behind it from the north, a lot drier with that mixture of cloud cover and clearer spells with overnight lows between 5 and 14 degrees. So that's how we're shaping up for now. Come back to us live in a few moments' time.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Now, from Father Ted to Jedward, the National Wax Museum has been home to many an Irish icon
you in there?
Tommy Bow didn't make it in.
Don't mind him. Are you in there?
No.
Sammy sausages.
That's what I'm saying. Seriously. Deric has been meeting some of these famous faces this morning.
How are we getting on, Deric?
Good morning, guys. No sign of Tommy just yet, no sign of Alan, and no sign of Warren. But we're on a tour, so you never know what we'll find. Anyway, we're at the Wax Museum here this morning in the heart of Dublin city centre. Alan Buckley's with us. And Alan, I haven't been here, would you believe, since my school tour days back in the 80s.
It is a popular destination for school tours, but of course we've been here in this location since 2017. So it has moved around a little bit, but in the new location we have lots of new exhibits. There's different areas. We have a hall of celebrities upstairs where we have people like Tina Turner, we have David Bowie, we have Van Morrison, and of course Ireland's most successful rock band.
U2!
Oh, that's right, yeah. And of course, up there you get to see all of those. You might even want to get your selfie taken with Jedward, of course. But also we have the Father Ted room, we have the writer's room, we have the science room, and of course Harry Potter as well. Something for everybody.
Something for everyone. Now, how the process, in fact, of getting a wax figure made? Tell us about that.
Well, there is singularly really one man behind all of these figures, and that is the fantastically talented PJ Herity, who for over 30 years has been making these from scratch. It takes about 3 months start to finish, particularly if he's on a deadline. It's very labour intensive, it's messy, and of course sometimes the process is made a bit easier by actually getting someone to sit. So upstairs we have Liam Cunningham.
Did Liam come in?
He came in,
okay.
And there's actually, if you go onto our social media, you see a nice video of that whole process being put together, from sitting in the chair and getting the whole mould made and everything like that. Of course, it's his character from Game of Thrones.
Has anyone ever come in here and had a look at their wax figure and go, no, I don't like that?
No, I won't say who, but all I'll say is that maybe one of the members of U2 refused to take off his hat.
Okay, we can work it out.
I think so, but other than that, I think he was quite pleased.
We've also got the Enchanted Forest here because we're going back in time, back to a mythical time in Ireland.
Yes, absolutely. So this area here in the museum gives lend to the more mythology side of things in Irish history. Maybe not always true, but I think they're all stories we would have heard growing up. The children of Lear, Satanta, etc. So, and plus it comes immediately after something else, which is kind of used to calm people down.
Now it is coming up to Halloween, of course. It's a spooky time of year, and you've got the Horror Hotel here too.
Something you've been particularly looking forward to, Deric.
I hate this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it is obviously that time of year, and for the people who do like an occasional jump scare, a little bit of creep in their life, this is probably the best place to go, or alternatively the worst. But you know, as I said, not everyone's cup of tea, but I think we can pretty much guarantee that you leave a different colour than what you came in.
Well, this is true. A shade of white, I believe.
A shade of white, occasionally green. Occasionally green.
Tell us, what kind of spooks have you got here?
Well, we have...
I hate this kind of stuff.
Well, as you can see, it's always good to keep an eye on the best before dates of things in your fridge, because occasionally they can basically take on a life of their own. You'll also meet Dracula down here, the Prince of Darkness. You will find, well, of course, the Wolfman back there. And I think we have some colleagues of yours, actually, in the museum.
Well, I know, they were talking about it earlier on, and they said there was no sign of Alan, there was no sign of Tommy, but if we take a little look in here, guess what we found?
As you can see.
Sammy Sausages and Mr. Bow.
I think they'll both be happy with those representations, to be honest.
I think they'll be very, very happy. Alan, I'm absolutely loving this place. Where can people find out more online?
You can book your tickets and get all your information on waxmuseumplus.ie.
But for now, I am pretty hungry and I am looking for some bamboo. Have you got any bamboo?
I'm sorry, I was looking for Deric.
Oh, I don't know where he is.
Deric?
I don't know. Anyway, we've got lots of fun here this morning. Got you guys in studio.
Can somebody tell me what's happening?
He's a zombie panda.
So that's the sort of joke that I play with my kids. Look at him. I can see that mask. Thank you,
I think he's
lads.
a zombie panda. The zombie
In the Wax
apocalypse
Museum.
will get everyone.
Anyway, coming up next. That was Helen.
Sorry, that just went straight over my head. I had no idea he was a zombie panda.
Yeah, he's a zombie panda.
All right.
Anyway, next, Jennifer Rock. Deric could do with this, actually. The hottest products for skincare.
And she's answering your questions. Don't go anywhere.
Zombie panda.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Fáilte rubbish stock and a very good morning. We're broadcasting here from inside the Chanted Forest. We're down at the Wax Museum here in Dublin, and we're certainly waxing lyrical in terms of the weather out there today. So let's take a look at how it's shaping up now across the island with Alvaro Valero with us on camera. So slipping past the 11 o'clock hour. In fact, we've had a pretty decent start out there this morning. Yeah, we're seeing a couple of hit and miss light showers through parts of the north and across the Midwest as well. But as we're holding pretty decent now as we edge our way into the 10th of the month, bearing in mind those winds moderate to locally fresh from the southwest and already on the up in terms of those values. Now, right across the day, in fact, it really is all eyes on those temperatures, unseasonably mild for this time of year. We're talking values, temps there in and around 17 to 20, a possibility of 21 degrees. In terms of the forecast then through the northwest, we will see showers develop there across the latter half of late afternoon into early evening, and they begin to sink southeastwards as the day goes on. So taste of the wet stuff as we feed our way through your Tuesday. Across then into tonight, we'll see that system of rain push in a southeasterly direction. In behind it, a lot drier, that mixture of cloud cover with some clear spells pushing through, and again holding very, very mild in terms of those temps values, back to around 7 to 11 degrees. We'll have more on that. Follow the news at 12:30 right here in Virgin Media One. But for me and all the crew broadcasting from here from the heart of Dublin city centre, Biggie Cormac, August Longo.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Welcome back. As always, we have been inundated with beauty questions for Jennifer Rock, aka the Skin Nerd, and her car is packed with products, so we're going to get through.
Yeah, we're getting through them right now. Jennifer, thank you for staying with us. Let's get to our first text that came in, and from Sheila in Cork. It says, her skin is so dry at night. Is there any night cream that just isn't the old school that her mum used to have? Is there anything updated now that she can use?
Yeah, so thankfully, look, there is still the traditional moisturisers out there that their sole purpose is to just lock onto the superficial top layers of the skin and hydrate. However, technology like with Ultraceuticals, phenomenal Australian brand, celebrating 20 years in the sector, essentially. This particular moisturiser I do quite like, right? So essentially why? Firstly, it's dermatologically tested, but secondly, it has a complex in there called triple enzyme complex. What does that mean? It means that not only, exactly, like Alan, put it on your hand or just feel it on, you'll want to put it on your face. It genuinely is. It's divine.
It's very
really
thick.
Luxurious.
Is that at night time, that sort of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you would typically cleanse, serum, put your moisturiser on, and that includes the skin. It keeps everything you put onto the skin in it. But what's in this, back to the question that we had in from Sheila, is that it's not just, inverted commas, a moisturiser. Because this complex, it essentially works with the skin's natural rehabilitation. That's what happens to us as we sleep, as we know. So it helps your skin naturally to exfoliate itself. You don't wake up shedding or exfoliated per se, but just generally helps the skin exfoliate like it should. Very clever technology. A little goes such a long way.
€90 though.
Yeah, but it's a cosmeceutical, right?
It's an active,
and
exactly.
what does that mean?
So skincare can kind of come in two ways, as Muireann's saying. So essentially there's what really hydrates the skin, feels lovely, looks lovely, and more the investment from the brand goes into the sensation. Whereas this is not just about how it feels, it's actually what's in it, the active ingredients inside it at the right levels that will do more for the skin, basically.
Because our second question is from Kelly in Wexford. She's vegan. She's finding it increasingly hard to find products with actives.
Yes.
So again, what do we mean by actives, and why is that an issue for vegans?
So actives essentially mean that they have the correct ingredient or an ingredient that can do more than just treat the top layer of the skin. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Think about the gym. You've got your cardio. You see that you kind of sweat immediately, but you work on your core because you know that's internal. It's deeper down. The same kind of, it's like an analogy, the same analogy, the
is
same
it when
concept.
We hear PHAs or
PHAs, AHAs, salicylic acid. A lot of what I talk about typically is actives. Yeah, exactly. So when you're vegan, yes, it can be trickier because a lot of these ingredients ingredients actually formulated in a way, and sometimes they are at times tested on animals, less and less so in the EU, to be honest.
Yeah.
Paw have brought out, I've always known Paw for their amazing lip balm. Now they have brought out, this serum is pretty incredible, I have to give it, right? It's a 4-in-1 serum. So for Kelly, who's looking for a product that does a lot, or for anyone that's looking for a product that does a lot in a short space of time, it's vegan friendly, it's results driven because of those actives that we spoke about. What are the actives? Bit of a mouthful, but it's hyaluronic, which is basically, I don't ask people, there's not a quiz when you buy these products. Once you trust and you use, that's all that's needed. But it's papaya, which means it's a slight enzyme that kind of superficially exfoliates. 8 times hyaluronic acid. It's a hyaluronic, as you said, is an active, really hydrating ingredient, really helps the skin to hydrate itself, but 8 times that. Plus
Jennifer,
vitamin
can you just
C
keep
gives it
explaining this,
clarity.
because I know people, when you say acid and when you say
Yes.
people go, oh, acid's
Panic.
going to burn your skin,
Sure.
it's not good for your skin. That just draws the moisture up from your skin, isn't it?
Yeah, so usually when I say glycolic and salicylic, that acid is exfoliating. In this scenario, you're right, hyaluronic A, it's an ingredient we naturally have inside us in our skin from 30 onwards. Happy birthday to us. It tends to go in a bit of a decline.
Yeah.
So this is just putting back into the skin what the skin naturally has. Plus vitamin C, there's a really potent, 10 times more active form of vitamin C in here. Clarity immediately. Beautiful underneath makeup as well.
Okay, Cara in Limerick says, I'm officially in menopause. What adjustments do I need to make to my skincare routine, and where's a good place to start? And do you need to adjust your skincare routine in menopause?
Yeah, so look, with every decade, things start to change, as we know. So example, 30s, 40s, pigment becomes reality. Perimenopausal and menopausal skin, it can go 2 ways. You can get oilier or you can become drier. Typically, it's the more dry, red, sensitized, irritated skin. So it's a hard time because you're ultimately not sure if you're in, if you're perimenopause, you can't really tell if you're in it. Menopause is really only declared, as we know, when it's a year post having had your last period. But from a skin's perspective, pigmentation is a reality, sensitivity is a reality, and redness. So Dr. Hauschka, and thankfully a lot of brands are doing this now, they're bringing out skincare ranges that are clinically proven to help that time in your life. So this is the Dr. Hauschka Intense Treatment for Menopausal Skin. Very lightweight, beautiful product, free from synthetics, free from preservatives that kind of irritate the skin, free from fragrances. And again, whilst your skin is going through that acclimatization period, there's ingredients in there like daisy, rose. It's like a lovely, yeah, it's a spritz. It's really cooling. You can use it throughout the day, hot flushes, feeling heat, and then it really is quite cooling. Penetrates through makeup, so it's beautiful as a top-up. But in the morning, I would cleanse, use this as a spritz, and then put my serums on. The daisy flower and the different ingredients in it calm, soothe, and help pigment. Definitely one to consider for menopausal, but in general helps anyone whose skin is pigment, redness, and irritated prone.
Yeah, it is a thing. Again, it's pricey.
It is pricey, yeah, 100%. And you know what? It's ensuring that you don't need an awful lot. So getting something like this for menopause, but you don't need to change much else.
You don't need to use enough, okay.
Cleanse and SPF with that, and you're done.
Mary, she's overwhelmed with the amount of eye cream products on sale and wondering, is there a product that tackles more than one issue at a time? Where to put it?
So eye creams, you guys know this, I'm not always a huge advocate for them, simply because I feel you can put a serum up around the eye area. That's the joy of serums versus moisturisers. In decades gone by, you kind of had to stop here. With a lot of serums, you can bring it right up. Not all eye creams
as
you
an eye
can.
cream.
That's my frustration with eye creams.
I thought you always
Sometimes
had to just dab it on here.
Yeah, but that's like me saying to you, I've got a lip balm, but like, put it all around there.
Do you know what I mean?
So really, it's important.
I know.
Serums, you can go right here.
And for the record, the reason why they did that is usually that serum will kind of seep. You know yourself, you put a product here, it moves around. That's just a given. What this is, the Ordinary, again, extremely affordable, something we spoke about. A little bit pricier side for the Ordinary, and that is $26.20 from Boots, but it actually is really results driven. Why? So with an eye cream, what you're ultimately trying to combat, as we know, dark circles typically, lines, wrinkles, milia, and pigmentation. They're the key things that we tend to be conscious of regardless of our age. There's a water-based solution, so you'd cleanse, put this on first, and then put on your other products. For always put an eye serum.
What's a peptide?
So peptide, exactly. So this is what this is. It's a multi-peptide eye serum. Peptides are essentially something we naturally have inside us. They're like an amino acid, a protein, or peptide that we're just putting back into the skin. It's like a bossy boot cell. So you put this on, it'll help with dark circles, like honestly,
like
a
not even
little
a full
goes
drop.
a very
So it's going to last you a long
that's
time.
key. There's niacinamide in there as well, so after 2 to 3 weeks, you'll see a huge difference with the brightness. So to answer for eye creams, it helps with a little bit of all the skincare woes.
Finally, Tara in Clare, embarrassed that her hands look so uncared for. Her mother used to wear gloves and lather on hand lotion. Should she be doing the same thing?
So look, hand cream, I think at this time of the year we tend to think of it more, and particularly if we've had, and post-summer we've been, hopefully out and about, enjoying ourselves, and pigmentation tends to be the reality on the hands an awful lot. Pigmentation meaning some people call them age spots. So this is number 7, always a clinical brand, have a little feel of that.
Are they age spots?
Yes,
Come here,
they
you
are.
can
So
do
there's
it.
sun-
No,
they do
But I'm just
consult.
showing you what an age spot looks like if they are age spots.
99% of people after using this product after 1 week, yeah. So essentially, people would confuse it as sun damage. We all have a little bit of it on our hands. It's almost unavoidable because this is always exposed. Whether you're
So
driving
little
with
spots,
the
they're age
little,
spots.
yeah,
those
and they're
little
not caused by the age of your date of birth. They're caused by the fact that you've been on the
Sun.
planet, you've been exposed to light. So it's actually sun damage, but people call it age. 99% of people saw a difference within 4 weeks. Within 1 week, actually saw firmer and smooth. Within 4 weeks, saw moisturising and a decrease in pigmentation.
retinol in it.
So, retinol, one of my go-to ingredients. Retinol is a key ingredient for anti-aging. It triggers your collagen elastin and it really helps with pigmentation. It's great for cuticles and nails, hydration, max 3 times a day. This is not a hand cream you put on every time you wash your hands because it's, again, back to that word active. There's a theme today, but this has retinol, a really potent form, brilliant for it. And I'd actually encourage people to do one hand and not the other. You'll see a difference in the pigmentation and the clarity.
As always, fabulous. Fabulous.
rock.
Thank you, Jennifer, the Skin Nerd.
Fantastic. Tommy, what's coming up tomorrow?
Thanks very much, guys. On tomorrow's show, we're going to be reacting to today's budget with Minister for Education, Norma Foley, and Taoiseach Micheál Martin. Get in touch, 0896